Distinguished delegates, please take your seats so that we can begin. The chairperson is here.
I'm glad to be back again from Berlin, and now we can start. Ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates, as you know from the list of order of examination of nominations that was circulated to you, the nomination number 19, Sites of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution, was scheduled to be considered today at 3 p.m. However, after consulting with the members of the committee, I would like to inform you that this nomination will now be examined tomorrow, Sunday, 5th of July at 3 p.m. Thank you. And now we continue with draft decision 39, 8b.20. And I invite ICOMOS to present the nomination of Christiansfeld, a Moravian settlement, Denmark. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, and you have the floor now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of this nomination, which is to be found on page 5 of the English version of document 8B4 and on page 30 of the French version. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now ICOMOS has the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. This is the ICOMOS evaluation of Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement in Denmark. The 18th century settlement of Christiansfeld is a planned town which reflects the Moravian church societal structure designed as an example of an ideal Protestant city. Its houses present homogeneous and unornamented yellow brick facades and red tile roofs in mainly 1- and 2-story structures, and the settlement is still inhabited by a lively Moravian church community. The settlement of Christiansfeld is located in Kolding municipality in the region of southern Denmark. The urban and architectural components included in the property, which is 21 hectares in size, were constructed in a project to create a settlement entirely based on the religious and social principles of the Moravian Church. The settlement centers on a church square surrounded by various key structures, such as the hall, the sister's house, the firehouse, and the vicarage. God's Acre, the Moravian Church cemetery northeast of the settlement, is divided into 8 spaces of grave plots and marked by an entrance gate. The hall, which is the church, stands out in terms of size and decorative details. Its interior is characterized by a light and calm room with white walls, delicate benches, and chandeliers. The town was originally divided into a sisters and brothers side, as unmarried women and men lived separately. Located to the north were the sisters and widows' house, while the industrial buildings, workshops, and brothers' house can be found south. And all choir houses are light and of simple architecture with minimalist decoration, in line with the Moravian Church's reformative philosophy and stylistic conservatism. The settlement also contains a hotel, which is still used for its original purpose. Christiansfeld is presented as only one of formerly several Moravian church colonies, despite initial plans for a serial nomination of Moravian church settlements by the Moravian Heritage Network. ICOMOS considers that while the state of preservation of Christiansfeld is indeed exceptional, it should in the long term not remain the only example of all preserved Moravian church settlements which merit recognition on the World Heritage List. However, based on the assumption that whatever series might be presented in the future, Christiansfeld would certainly need to be part of it, ICOMOS concluded that criteria 3 and 4 are justified and the qualifying condition of integrity and authenticity are met. ICOMOS wishes, however, that the authenticity of historic surfaces, in particular interiors, is given a little more attention in the future. While the legal protection seems effective at present, ICOMOS thinks that ideally it should cover the entire property and not only the individual historic buildings, and that the property should be designated as a heritage site at the national level. ICOMOS considers that the management system for the property will be adequate once it is fully established, and recommends that the proposed risk preparedness and disaster response plan is finalized and implemented, and that the management plan be augmented to include indicators for its quality assessment. Boundaries, protection, conservation, and management are sufficient, while the latter three can still be improved, as I mentioned earlier. In conclusion, ICOMOS recommends that Christiansfeld, a Moravian settlement, Denmark, be inscribed on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 3 and 4. The additional recommendations relate to the authenticity of historic surfaces, legal protection, and augmentation of the management system. ICOMOS also recommends that the name of the property be changed to Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement. And in view of a potential serial future nomination, ICOMOS recommends that the state party, in cooperation with other state parties that envisage participation in a larger series, develops a concept for an overall composition of a serial property and its nomination phases. And Christiansfeld should be integrated into such a transnational serial property during its initial nomination phase. And ICOMOS would very much like to offer its assistance in the context of upstream work in this process. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you for your presentation, and now I invite the committee members to express their comments. Yes, and I see Lebanon. You have the floor now.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Liban suit la conclusion d'ICOMOS qui reconnaît la valeur universelle exceptionnelle de ce site. En tant qu'architecte urbaniste, je suis moi-même extrêmement sensible à ce type de bien et à la valeur que représente ce bien pour nous en tant que typologie bien particulière et extrêmement intéressante. Le Liban souhaiterait néanmoins insister sur la recommandation faite à l'État partie de renforcer le degré de protection juridique du bien en tant que district historique. Nous comprenons que les bâtiments historiques majeurs sont protégés par une loi et que l'ensemble du bien est protégé par un plan local. Mais comme le dit bien le rapport d'ICOMOS, les lois de planification ont une durée de vie limitée et peuvent évoluer dans le temps. Du fait de pressions liées au développement ou autres. Nous pensons que ce site mérite vraiment d'être protégé de façon globale. Nous insistons aussi sur la recommandation concernant le plan de gestion. Nous lisons dans le rapport d'ICOMOS que le plan de gestion n'est pas encore officiellement adopté. Mais la recommandation que fait ICOMOS à la fin, après donc la recommandation d'inscription, propose uniquement de compléter le plan de gestion. Alors nous avons une question à ICOMOS. S'agit-il de compléter le plan de gestion ou d'adopter le plan de gestion? Merci.
ICOMOS will give the answers at the end of the discussion. Are there any more comments? I see. Fine. Croatia, then India, Jamaica, Philippines. Please, Croatia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Croatia supports the draft decision submitted by the World Heritage Center and ICOMOS for inscribing on the World Heritage List the Danish site Moravian 18th century settlements as exceptionally valuable example of very specific social structure followed by significant urban and architecture design still alive today. Congratulations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. India?
Thank you, Madam Chair. there is no doubt in our mind that this 18th century site is an exceptional example of a Moravian church planned colony settlement. We commend the State Party on presenting this nomination for inscription to the World Heritage List and warmly congratulate them in advance. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamaica and then Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This outstanding cultural settlement, dating back to the 16th century, is without a doubt a unique addition to the World Heritage List. It is the best preserved Moravian town and bears witness to the Moravian Church's ideal of Christian life in society. There are several other distinctive cultural elements which speaks to the OUV of the site, its integrity and authenticity. Undoubtedly, Christian Field Moravian settlement brings much value to the premise on which Christian Convention was developed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, Philippines, followed by Germany, Korea, Japan, Turkey. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines wishes to congratulate State Party Denmark for the inscription of the property Christiansfeld, a Moravian settlement, to the World Heritage List. The Moravian ideals of simplicity and of lifestyle and generosity with wealth are reflected and enshrined in its exceptionally well-preserved buildings, the town plan, and its relation to the farmlands in its buffer zone. We couldn't help but notice in the report that a number of buildings are no longer being used, and we do echo ICOMOS's recommendation to find appropriate uses for these that will keep the associated values intact. We also support the recommendation that Christiansfeld may be the first of a future serial property composed of other Moravian church settlements in neighboring states parties. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, Germany.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Christiansfeld is a great testimony for a planned settlement. It was founded in 1773 by the Moravian Church, which has its origins in Saxony, Germany, and is one of the best preserved settlements, which was planned and erected around the central church. The buildings, with their beautiful yellow bricks and the two streets which lead through the city, are also contributing to the uniqueness of the city. Therefore, Christiansfeld has an outstanding universal value and should be part of the UNESCO World Heritage List. We also would like to thank Germany for great work and congratulate the State Party for this magnificent inscription.
I think you want to congratulate Denmark.
Denmark.
Yeah. But everybody understood this. Now, Korea, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to congratulate Denmark and also ICOMOS, and fully supports the draft decision for the inscription of this site on the World Heritage List, demonstrating a strong OUV. The layout of the town in its original design, still inhabited by an influential Moravian church community up to this day, is quite remarkable. I thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. Now Japan, followed by Turkey, Kazakhstan, Finland, Malaysia, Qatar.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Japan considers that this is a significant site where the urban layout and architectures represent the ideal concept of Moravian church community. It is also recognized as the distinguished character that a lot of architectures keep the original functions. Christiansfeld is unique in a view that it has not had the wall around the city, which many European cities usually have. Japan would like to congratulate the State Party and the inscription of such an exceptional property on the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Turkey agrees with the previous speakers. There's no doubt that the nominated property has a outstanding universal value, and the criteria 3 and 4 have been justified. Turkey agrees with the draft decision of ICOMOS and also recommends to change the name of the property into Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement, as it is also stated in the ICOMOS draft decision. Thank you.
Now, Kazakhstan has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just wanted to congratulate Denmark with the inscription of Christiansfeld, a Moravian settlement, on the World Heritage List, and with the outstanding universal value of this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland considers that the property from the religious, urban and city plan historical point of view is a phenomenon that deserves to be considered as a World Heritage Site. The town bears an exceptional testimony to the culture of Moravians' church and its idea of an ideal society and life. Important principles are expressed in the town's layout, architecture and craftsmanship, as well as the fact that the numerous buildings are still used for their original function, and the Moravian church activities and traditions are continued. This all will also set a challenge to the state party. Christiansfeld city's structure is valuable in that it is an outstanding example of a planned ideal Protestant colony, as is illustrated in its town plan, architectural unity and functional distribution, in which the Moravian Church vision of an ideal urban society could be realized. Preservation of the city in a rapidly changing world and society is an important but difficult task. Also, the management and the conservation of a vast site is a major task for the future. We believe that the State Party of Denmark will take care of the implementation of the management plan and will succeed with this task. Finland is in favor of inscribing the site on the World Heritage List, but would like to hear from the State Party how they are planning to address the recommendation of ICOMOS. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Malaysia, and then Qatar, Vietnam, and Senegal. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Apologies, Madam Chair. Malaysia would like to echo the sentiments and statement of the other delegates in supporting the inscription of this Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement on the World Heritage Site. Thank you, ma'am.
Qatar has the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Qatar aussi appuie l'inscription de ce site et félicite l'État partie, le Danemark, pour ce dossier et félicite aussi l'ICOMOS pour son travail. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Vietnam and then Senegal.
Madame la Présidente, le Vietnam souhaite également féliciter l'État partie du Danemark pour l'inscription de ce site Christiansfeld avec les critères 3 et 4 sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Senegal, followed by Algeria.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal voulait se joindre également à toutes les autres délégations pour féliciter le Danemark pour cette inscription de ce site merveilleux sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci.
Fine, thank you. Algérie.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La délégation algérienne se joint aux orateurs qui l'ont précédée pour souscrire à l'inscription de ce site sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, notamment pour la qualité architecturale et urbanistique de ces lieux. Félicitations à l'État partie. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. And now the list of the speakers is finished. That's why I ask ICOMOS to answer the questions of Lebanon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. The questions related to two different aspects, and I would like to start with the aspect of the management plan. And here the question was whether it was in fact yet to be adopted or just to be completed. In fact, what exists is a management plan. However, ICOMOS suggested that it needed to be augmented in a few areas that were not yet covered by the existing management plan. The management plan is based on principles, and these principles were adopted by the City Council in 2013. So the very outset of the management plan was formally adopted. The different actions contained in the management plan are also approved, but are approved by the respective authorities in charge of their implementation or the holding municipality respectively. So the content and actions of the management plan is likewise approved, although the management plan itself as a package was not formally adopted another time because its principles were already adopted initially. What is not formally approved is the additional work that UNESCO has requested, which ICOMOS has requested, which is yet underway, specifically the risk preparedness and disaster response plan, which the state party has committed to complete soon, but is not yet completed. In terms of the legal protection, the situation is as follows. The key historic buildings in the settlement, which are the buildings that contribute the key features to the outstanding universal value, are protected as historic monuments at the highest level, and so is Goats Acre, the Moravian Church Cemetery. What is not covered by legal protection in historic monument and heritage terms is the larger streetscape of the settlement and the later additions in the area. And in order to provide enhanced protection, preventing any negative impacts to the features which carry the attributes of outstanding universal value in the future, ICOMOS recommends that also these additional elements, such as streetscape, is covered by a full legal protection at the highest national level. I hope that this adds to the understanding of the Honorable Delegate of Lebanon. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Lebanon, I see you have some more questions.
Thank you,
yeah?
thank you,
Please,
ICOMOS.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair, and thank you, ICOMOS. It responds completely to my questions.
Fine, thank you so much. And now I turn to our rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't received any amendments concerning this draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one? Yeah, please, the Secretariat.
Just to remind before we go to the adoption that there is a change of name which is already in the draft decision and which the state party agreed to with ICOMOS. So we will have to take into account in the draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you for this clarification. Now, that's Finland?
Point of order.
Finland? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Madam. Finland actually asked in our own speech to get the state party's response on how they will react on the ICOMOS recommendations, and we would still very much like to hear from them before we go forward to the adoption of the decision. Thank you.
Thank you that you remind that. So I'll ask the state party, that means Denmark, to answer this question, please. Denmark, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can just shortly say that we fully support the recommendations from ICOMOS and the state party and the local municipality. And we will follow up on them as soon as possible. And I will also yes, that I think should be sufficient. Thank you.
That's all right? Yeah, fine. Thank you. Now we could adopt this decision. Now I declare decision 39.8b.20 adopted. That's it. Congratulations to Denmark on behalf of the entire committee, and my personal congratulations for the inscription of this wonderful site. And now Denmark, you have the floor for a brief 2-minute statement. Yeah, Denmark, you have the floor now. Please.
Thank you very much again, Madam Chair. And let me first express how pleased we are that the committee has approved Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement, as World Heritage. And we warmly thank you. We have really been looking forward for this to happen. We appreciate the work of the ICOMOS in evaluating Christiansfeld, a Moravian church settlement. It has been a great pleasure working with you and to experience the professionalism and thoroughness which you have evaluated this and other nominations. Please allow me also to thank the World Heritage Center for the perfect cooperation in the entire nomination process, and our German hosts for a warm welcome and a well-planned session here in Bonn, which will be another reason that we will never forget this day. The nomination is a result of a truly remarkable cooperation between the Moravian Church in Christiansfeld, as well as other local residents, the municipal authorities, and state players. It's an example of how local efforts and collaboration can, in the end, lead to important diplomatic and political decisions. It is therefore my pleasure, with your permission, Madam Chair, to pass the floor to the Mayor of Kolding Municipality, who has played an important role in the accomplishment of this nomination and who will speak on behalf of the local community.
Thank you. No? The Mayor will speak, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Moravian settlement of Christiansfeld and the municipality of Kolding, I'm very grateful to the committee for having inscribed us. Christiansfeld is now in top form, and together with private funds, we have restored buildings, streets, and LAs for more than 35 million euros during the recent years. We are proud of this. We are ready to continue the work. There are several Moravian settlements, as there has been said by ICOMOS, built according to the same principle as Christiansfeld, which by far is the most well-preserved. We are, of course, at your disposal if you want to follow their example, as I can understand you want. Thank you very much for inscribing us on the UNESCO list. Thank you.
Thank you. All good wishes to Denmark. And now we turn to the next nomination for Denmark too. It's a par-force hunting landscape in North Zealand, Denmark. Firstly, I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat. Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of this nomination, which is to be found on page 7 of the English version on document 8B4 and on page 32 of the French version. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The ICOMOS evaluation can be found at page 149 of the English version of document INF 8B1 and page 210 of the French version. The serial nomination of the par-force hunting landscape encompasses 3 extant portions of forest and grounds that have been cut through according to a precise design to carry out ceremonial courtly hunts. North Zealand undulating territory was shaped at the end of the last ice age, and this type of landscape with the low hills covered with forest, small lakes and bogs offered ideal conditions to create a large hunting reserve since the second half of the 16th century that reached its apogee of development between the 17th and the 18th century. The 3 nominated components of the series illustrate different stages of the hunting estate development. The Stor Dire Have represents the first phase with clear application of geometry to the environment, as in the Gribsko, while the Jägersborg Dyrehave-Egen incorporate later phases of development of the hunting reserve. The hunt practiced by the Danish kings was the par force hunt, or chasse à courre, that is the mountain chase of a single stag, which required a network of straight rides to chase the prey and several points for the rendezvous, that is when the prey was captured. As science and measurement techniques were growing in importance in the 17th century, geometry and rationalism guided the layout of the rides, each of which was identified by a number and an arrow to indicate the direction. At Store Dyrehave, the design of the hunting rides have exploited its relief. The Kungenstjernen, the originating element of the riding system, has been placed at the highest point of the area so as to allow riders easy orientation. The Gribsko was once conjoined with the Store Dyrehave, but they are now separated by the recent urban development of the town of Hillerød. However, they both share the same road networks. Therefore, ICOMOS, during its evaluation process, considered that the property's integrity would have gained from the inclusion of at least some of the rides connecting the Gribsko and the Store Dyrehave component. The state party responded positively by adding further rides to the nominated property and incorporating as well part of the Lille Dyrehave park in the buffer zone, as well as slightly enlarging the Gribsko component and its buffer zone. The Jägersborg Dyrehave and the Jägersborg Egen became a hunting park in a later stage, and it is explained that it differs from the other two components as the hunting ride system were never numbered there. The wooded areas were more elaborate in terms of species mix and age of trees. The Hermitage slotted was built in the mid-18th century and replaced a previous wooden banqueting house. And this is still used by the royal family during the Santubart chase, which is performed every year. The nomination describes further elements that, although not included within the nominated property or in the buffer zone, contribute to understand the development of the hunting grounds and parks in North Zealand. Following dialogue between the state party and ICOMOS, some of these elements, as I said, have been integrated in the property. And with the addition of some rights and further areas to this nominated property and additional elements to the buffer zones that were reputed important for the understanding of development of the property itself, ICOMOS considered that the integrity has been met despite some alteration caused by modern infrastructures. The authenticity of the whole series has been demonstrated, although the sense of place has been undermined in some areas by urban development, and the forest cover has been also modified slightly by reforestation. Despite many weaknesses in the comparative analysis, the property justified consideration for the well-tested list, and the selected criterion originally chosen by the state party was criterion 2. However, ICOMOS noted that the rationale for the construction of the nomination and the selection of the component would have also strengthened the nomination by considering also criterion 4, and proposed the state party as whether they would agree to consider also this criterion, and the state party indeed responded positively and provided a justification also for this criterion. Following the modification to the boundaries, they now encompass the elements that illustrate the development and the design principle of the hunting landscape, while the nominated components and the respective buffer zones are granted adequate protection. This does not cover the wider setting of the property, which, however, is in historic context and should be managed in this perspective. Management builds upon a 2 centuries of experience in forestry management. However, it would be advisable that the recent agreement for the establishment of a steering committee between the authorities managing the forests and the local authorities be formalized. ICOMOS, anyway, in summary, recommend that the property be inscribed on the well-tested list under criterion 2 and criterion 4. And there are also some additional recommendations with a view to improve both the knowledge of the entire North Zealand hunting grounds and the integrity of the property in the future and in relation to its wider setting. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the floor is open for the committee's members. Are there any comments? Portugal, you have the floor.
I presume, Madam Speaker, you opened the floor for comments from the... Thank you. To save time, I'll address the two Danish nominations together. That's why I didn't speak before. So concerning Christiansfeld, we praise Denmark for this well-prepared nomination, which confirms the unique nature of this exceptional site, which reflects the Moravian Church's ideals and principles. We share ICOMOS recommendations concerning legal protection, management issues, and for the state party and other stakeholders to consider a further transnational serial nomination where other Moravian churches' settlements could be inserted and bring a full comprehensive narrative of the OUV. Concerning the second site in North Zealand, it bears witness of the hunting landscape formation and is a striking testimony of the interchange of values within Europe on developments in landscape design in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. It is noteworthy that the full-fledged cooperation between ICOMOS and the state party during the evaluation process allows us today to inscribe the property on the basis of an additional criterion not initially proposed by the state party. We salute this outcome and see it as an encouraging signal to forthcoming nominations. And we congratulate Denmark for these two outstanding nominations and for their inscription in the World Heritage List. And I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Now Turkey, followed by Japan, Germany, Finland, Colombia, and Philippines. Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The nominated property has an outstanding universal value as the par 4 hunting landscape in North Zealand, which encompasses 3 distinct forests and landscapes that have been offering ideal conditions to create a large hunting reserve area since it has been used by the Danish kings at the 16th century AD. Criteria 2 and 4 have been justified. The nomination dossier highlights the fact that no cultural landscape that have been inscribed on the World Heritage List as an intentionally designed landscape for hunting. In this respect, Turkey agrees with the draft decision of ICOMOS and supports the nominated property to be inscribed in the list. Thank you.
Now Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We consider that this property has exceptional features which are composed by the field designed by geometric hunting loyal architectures, stone posts, and forests. This property has been fully evaluated as a result that the advisory body suggested the criterion 4, which has not insisted in the original dossier, and the state party has accepted the suggestion. And it should be noted as an appropriate as a result of the dialogue between the state party and the advisory body. Japan would like to congratulate the state party and the inscription of such an exceptional property on the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. Germany has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Parforce hunting landscape is an outstanding cultural landscape which has been influenced by European trends, showing that for centuries Denmark has been a cultural bridge between Central Europe and Scandinavia. Furthermore, the forests, the pathways, and the park are in excellent condition. Therefore, an inscription into the World Heritage List is a logical consequence. We congratulate Denmark for the second inscription today. This shows the great and professional work Denmark has done in the evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Varbs. Now Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland would also like to congratulate the State Party of Denmark on the nomination of the par 4 hunting landscape in North Zealand to the World Heritage List. The nomination is an interesting addition to the World Heritage List, since designed landscapes are underrepresented on the list, and among these, intentionally designed hunting landscapes are especially scarce. We would also like to thank ICOMOS for excellent work together with the State Party. In discussions with the State Party, Finland have also learned that the State Party already have taken steps to fulfill the recommendations by ICOMOS concerning this property. Finland is in favor of inscribing the site on the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. Colombia.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Colombia se muestra de acuerdo con esta inscripción en la lista del Patrimonio Mundial y aprovecha para felicitar a Dinamarca por haber conservado este lugar cuya conformación ha sido el reflejo de casi 5 siglos de diálogo entre el hombre y sus manifestaciones culturales en el marco de un entorno natural. Esta característica le otorga grandes valores paisajísticos que están ligados directamente a su integridad y autenticidad, pero sobre todo a los valores sociales y étnicos que se reflejaron en su planeación y diseño. Gracias.
Thank you. Now Philippines, followed by Kazakhstan, Korea, Jamaica, Croatia, Senegal, Algeria. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Philippines rides along the mountain support to inscribe the powerful hunting landscape of Denmark. Viewed in the context of European Baroque gardens and the role in reflecting values, interchanges in the 17th and 18th centuries, the layout of the hunting forests Store de Reave and Gripskov is based on a central star grid system combined with orthogonal grid subdivision that amplifies the monarchic emblems, meanings, and symbolisms. We enjoin the State Party and other state parties to encourage and deepen research on this genre of sites, a typology that's poorly represented and rarely studied in the World Heritage List. So we would like to congratulate Denmark for this very magnificent site. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Kazakhstan has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We congratulate the State Party with the inscription of this unique cultural landscape, illustrating the development of the Baroque parforce. And in this regard, we accept recommendations of ICOMOS on the statement of universal understanding of this site. We support the draft decision. Thank you.
Korea has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea supports the inscription of the powerful hunting landscape on the World Heritage List and doubly congratulates Denmark on the success. We recognize the important values of this site in demonstrating European monarchic ambitions and power from the 17th to 18th centuries. We would very happily await for the results of the foreseen survey and recordings of the ride system to discover new elements as recommended by ICOMOS. Thank you and congratulations, Denmark.
Thank you. Jamaica has the floor, then Croatia, Senegal, Algeria, and Malaysia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Parforce hunting landscape in North Zealand comprises a hunting reserve formerly used by Danish kings and their court. The work of both the State Party and advisory bodies to formulate and guide this nomination is commendable. Jamaica congratulates the State Party and endorses the inscription of the site. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now Croatia has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Croatia also wants to congratulate the State Party for carefully prepared nomination and support the inscription of the Parforce hunting landscape in New Zealand on the World Heritage List. The Danish sites represent a valuable and extraordinary preserved example of European Baroque cultural landscape. Thank you.
Senegal has the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Donc, la délégation du Sénégal se joint aux États parties précédents pour féliciter le Danemark pour donc l'inscription de ce second site, vu surtout la valeur universelle exceptionnelle du site mais aussi les efforts menés par l'État partie pour répondre aux attentes de l'ICOMOS. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Algeria and then Malaysia.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le paysage de chasse par force de Zélande du Nord proposé mérite son inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Toutefois, nous relevons quelques éléments du rapport mis en relation avec les recommandations ICOMOS qui nous laissent perplexes. Le bien comprend des forêts et des parcs importants dotés d'un réseau de chemins conçu pour la chasse à courre. Ce réseau de chemins, à titre d'exemple dans le document, constitue un attribut pertinent du bien proposé. Mis en relation avec la recommandation ICOMOS, celle-ci demande de mener une étude sur le système des chemins. Si une étude sur le système des chemins n'est pas encore réalisée, comment peut-on être sûr que ce sont des attributs certains? Par ailleurs, il est recommandé d'inventorier toutes les parties récentes, redécouvertes et d'autres éléments et agencements qui témoignent de la formation du paysage de chasse. Si l'on fait un inventaire sur les parties récentes, cela voudrait dire qu'on n'a pas connaissance de l'ensemble du bien. Et ça a une relation directe avec la délimitation du bien. D'autre part, il est recommandé, vivement recommandé à l'État partie d'envisager pour l'avenir la suppression dans la partie sud de l'infrastructure qui traverse la forêt. Et il nous semble que cette infrastructure est la ligne haute tension qui traverse le bien dans le sens est-ouest, nous semble-t-il. Il est dit dans le corps du texte que l'environnement immédiat des forêts protégées a été sapé par le développement urbain. Tout cela nous laisse perplexes. Nous adhérons à la proposition d'inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, mais nous souhaiterions que ICOMOS nous explique pour être certains de ce que nous avançons. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. And now Malaysia has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Like other members of the committee, Malaysia also would like to compliment the state parties, Denmark, for presenting this outstanding cultural landscape that fully satisfied the OUV with protection and management requirement of the property well in place. Therefore, inscription is the only option for this site. Having said this, Malaysia would like to congratulate State Party Denmark for the second inscription of the nomination site today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to ICOMOS. There was a question of Algeria.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you as well to the distinguished delegate of Algeria to raise this issue. In fact, it is the dossier itself that mentions a number of features that are related to the parforce hunting landscape that have been described as related to the main theme that is presented in the nomination dossier. And even the mission considered the various features that could have been included, and through the dialogue with the state party, ICOMOS and the state party were able to identify those features that were for the moment indispensable to illustrate the outstanding universal values as proposed by the state party. So the suggestion to continue the study is related to possible further inclusion of other features. Nevertheless, ICOMOS has found that those features that have been included within the boundaries of the site, of the serial property, as expanded following dialogue with the state party, were those that could sustain the proposed outstanding universal value. And in the same vein, the inventory of the features that has been recommended is related again to continue the study and the identification of all the features that concern this wide area of North Zealand, as we have been clarified and informed by the state party that the entire North Zealand was formerly a hunting ground. So the importance of having these features identified relate also to the importance to manage the wider setting as an historic setting. So this is more related to the management of the wider area, which includes the nominated property. So it's more a matter of appropriate management of the wider historic setting than of, let's say, establishing the features that are necessary to convey the outstanding universal value of the property that have been indeed included in the proposal by the state party through the evaluation process that have been carried out in accordance between the state party and the ICOMOS. And I hope I have clarified the perplexities that were raised by the distinguished delegate of Algeria. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Algeria whether Algeria is happy with this clarification.
Madame la Présidente, nous faisons confiance à l'ICOMOS. Merci.
Thank you. And there's another comment. Senegal, you have the floor.
Bien sûr, nous maintenons les remerciements et les félicitations. Nous avons voulu réintervenir suite aux remarques très pertinentes de l'Algérie. Ça nous a rappelé un certain débat hier. Très honnêtement, je pense que c'est tiré par les cheveux. Merci.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask our rapporteur, have you received any amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I haven't received any amendment on this draft decision. Thank you.
Yeah. That means I now declare decision 39,8b.21 adopted. And it's time now for a double congratulation. Let me congratulate Denmark on behalf of the entire committee for the inscription of this extraordinary site, the Parfors hunting landscape in North Zealand. And Denmark, you have the floor for a brief 2-minute statement. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I feel like a very lucky man today to have the chance to speak twice on such a topic. On behalf of the Danish State Party, I wish to give my sincere thanks to the World Heritage Committee for including the Parfors hunting landscape in North Zealand on the World Heritage list. Please allow me to repeat our thanks to the World Heritage Center for the perfect cooperation in the entire nomination process. Furthermore, I would like to reiterate our respect for ICOMOS, their work, knowledge and professionalism. We and our nomination have benefited greatly from ICOMOS' evaluation process. During the nomination process, the state party's awareness of the cultural values of the Parfors hunting landscape was steadily increasing. We therefore hope and believe that the inclusion of this landscape on the list will inspire a growing awareness around the world of valuable heritage represented by the many cultural landscapes created down through the ages by man's different hunting activities. The Danish State Party, together with the municipalities, and the many local stakeholders, are proud to take into custody one of those valuable landscapes as World Heritage. With your permission, Madam Chair, I will pass the floor to the chair of the steering group behind the nomination, who is also the true expert whose tireless engagement and profound knowledge has played an important role in the accomplishment of this nomination.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. On behalf of the steering committee of the Danish project for the Parforce hunting landscape in North Zealand, I'm very happy indeed to thank the World Heritage Committee for the acceptance of the landscape on the World Heritage List. Sorry, excuse me. It is now in our hands to manage this great heritage, and I can assure you that all stakeholders take on this task with great enthusiasm, and we'll do our utmost to meet the obligations that this status entails. I also wish to, from the bottom of my heart, to thank the experts of ICOMOS for placing their expertise at our disposal in a wonderfully open-minded and thoroughly scientific evaluation process. Very few studies exist on Europe's heritage of cultural landscapes created by the rulers' hunting practices, and we are convinced that the inclusion of the Parforce hunting landscape in North Zealand on the World Heritage List will inspire future research in this obviously very rich cultural heritage. Last, but by no means least, I wish to thank everybody at the UNESCO World Heritage Center in Paris for very helpful and wonderfully kind cooperation during the nomination process. Thank you.
We now turn to the next nomination. It's a transnational nomination. It's presented by Denmark and other countries, and it's presented by Germany too. That's the reason why I would like to ask the Vice Chair, the Vice President to chair now, and then I'll come back. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Change of guard for technical reasons, as the Minister mentioned. We move on now to Denmark, Germany, Iceland, Latvia, Norway, the Viking Age sites in Northern Europe, draft decision 39-8B22. I will invite ICOMOS to present the nomination, but before that, a word from Mr. Balsamo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to remind that we received a factual error notification on this, on the evaluation of this nomination, which is to be found on page 12 of the English version of document INF 8B4 and on page 37 of the French version. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balsamo. ICOMOS, you have the floor to present the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the evaluation of the Viking Age sites in Northern Europe by ICOMOS. 7 sites from 5 countries are seen as representative examples of the various types of monument left by the Norse people in their Scandinavian homelands and abroad as a result of raids, trade and migration between the 9th and the 11th century in what is now known as the Viking Age. Together, the mainly archaeological sites and the burial sites are intended to demonstrate how the phenomenon of Viking Age trade, raiding and settlement was instrumental in the development of Northern Europe. The series includes one already inscribed site in Denmark and part of a second in Iceland. In terms of categories of cultural property, this is a serial nomination of 7 sites. This is a map of the Norse homelands. The dark green shows the Norse homelands, the shading areas in which the Norse settled, and the red lines the directions of what are called Viking raids. ICOMOS would like to say at this point that we've had dialogue with the 5 state parties during the evaluation process, including with experts involved in the nomination. At these meetings, ICOMOS outlined the concerns of its panel on the concept that underpin the rationale for this serial nomination in terms of the ability of the nominated sites to reflect the whole phenomena of Viking trade, raids and settlement in relation to the development of medieval states in Northern Europe. We also explained, however, that there appeared to be potential for a rather different type of series that focused on the Viking Age itself, when large numbers of Norse people set out to raid, trade, or migrate, and brought about transformational changes, not only in the Norse homelands, but also in the areas where they settled. But at the same time, we considered that this would need more time to develop in order that the series did full justice to the range and scope of Norse migrations and their impact, and that there was a clear rationale for the selection of sites. I would now like to present the original nomination and then reflect further on these issues. This is a map of the nominated sites. There's one in Iceland up in the top left, one in Latvia, the rest are from the North homelands. The rationale for the series is that each element reflects a different facet of the proposed outstanding universal value. This is one part of the already inscribed Thingvellir National Park in Iceland. The area nominated is that it surrounds the assembly area where Norse assemblies or parliaments were held annually. The site is included as a prominent testimony to the establishment of Norse society on the islands in North Atlantic and to the adoption of Christianity. The second nominated property is Jelling in Denmark. This reflects symbols of power, state formation, and the conversion to Christianity. It includes the church as well as mounds, rune stones, and the outer palisade. The large rune stone at Jelling it dates to AD 965 and proclaims the conversion of King Harold of the Danes to Christianity. And this is seen as the earliest source relating to the establishment of a Christian kingdom in Northern Europe. The Trelleborg fortresses and the Dannevirke fortress reflect the need for protection. They are also seen to represent the most prominent archaeological evidence for the Viking period's monumental and military building works. They're similar in layout and construction and were built around the same time. The Trelleborg fortresses only remained functional for about 20 years, while the Dannevirke fortress remained in use until the late 12th century. It is suggested that the construction of these fortresses reflects a centralized system of governance. The coastal site of Hedeby in Germany, in the southern part of the Jutland Peninsula, is testimony to trade networks established by the Norse of the Viking Age on the border with the Frankish Empire and with Slav and Saxon tribes. On the basis of trade and craft production between the 9th and the 11th century, Hedeby grew to become an important merchant town in Northern Europe. The Grobina burials and settlement in Latvia consist of the remains of the castle, hill fort, and settlements, together with associated burial mounds. These settlements flourished between the 650 and 1130 AD. They reflect Norse overseas trading and craft settlement in an already populated area, where Scandinavian expansion was at its initial stages. The settlements now are partly covered by modern development, and the burial mounds have been leveled, or some of them leveled, or some partly covered with tree and scrub. The three burial mounds of Bor, Osborg, and Gokstad, known as the Vestfold ship burials, were where the first Viking Age ships were excavated in the 19th and early 20th century. Gokstad Mound lies now over a kilometre from the sea, but in Viking times it was on the shoreline. Viking Age ship or boat burials are found across large areas of the North sphere of influence, reflecting the significance of ships as a means of transport. Finally, the Hillestad quernstone quarries in Norway produced querns or stones for grinding corn in large quantities from some 400 known quarry sites, of which 3 have been nominated. These have found in large quantities in Sweden, Denmark, and around the Baltic, and bear testimony to specialized economics and large-scale production during what is called the Viking Age. Next slide, please. The serial nomination was an ambitious undertaking that attempted to reflect through 7 sites the migration of peoples over several centuries of history across large parts of Northern Europe. Such an approach tends to simplify concepts, particularly the definition of historic periods, peoples, and the scope and extent of interactions, particularly when the period being considered is not related to a coherent empire or state, but rather to an assembly of polities that were transformed in many different ways. The nomination dossier originally focused on one main aspect of this period, the impact that resulted from the new ideas that Norse people absorbed from the states they came into contact with in terms of state formation back in the homelands of Scandinavia. Although the intellectual arguments for this idea were well set out, there remained an issue as to how far any of the sites, apart from Thingvellir, could readily be understood in terms of their contribution to state formation. In response to these concerns of ICOMOS and other concerns, the state parties, after discussions, provided a revised statement of outstanding universal value that moves the emphasis away from state formation to a more general focus on Viking migration and the impact of that migration on the development of Northern Europe. There still remain some, in ICOMOS's view, some conceptual difficulties with this new approach. It is still problematic to reflect an entire Viking Age migration in 7 sites. It is also debatable whether its impact can be constrained to Northern Europe, or whether the Viking Age can be seen as a time of a linear, sequential progress. Both of these are much debated, as is its time frame. Overall, ICOMOS does not consider that this series in its present form would allow the scope of Viking Age influence to be adequately reflected on the World Heritage List. Next slide, please. As you can see from this chart, the issues relate to outstanding universal value and criteria rather than to the authenticity and integrity of individual sites. There are also no issues with the protection and management of individual sites. Rather, our concerns are related to the rationale for the series as a whole. In conclusion, we consider there is considerable potential for a serial nomination to reflect what might generally be called the Viking Age, and there is apparent enthusiasm by the state parties concerned to explore this possibility further. ICOMOS therefore recommends that the nomination of the Viking Age sites in Northern Europe be deferred in order to allow the state parties to explore further the full scope, scale and nature of Viking Age sea and river migration and trade routes through various measures in order to come up with a different nomination strategy that more fully allowed the reflection of the Viking Age on the World Heritage List. And we would like to underscore that ICOMOS will be willing to engage with the state parties concerned through the upstream processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS. The floor now belongs to the committee members to express their comments. Japan is first off the mark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan would like to thank the state parties of Denmark, Germany, Iceland, Latvia, and Norway for this important nomination, and ICOMOS for giving many suggestions to this nomination, which will enable the nominating states to further develop their nomination efficiently and effectively. We think that there are many ways of reformation of this nomination, such as from the viewpoints of the ethnicity or of community culture, although the fact that the included sites are related to the history of Viking is in itself important. Therefore, we recognize the strong potential of this very challenging and unique nomination. To conclude, ICOMOS has given a very encouraging comments with the suggestion to provide further collaboration through upstream process, and we believe this site should come back as soon as the one to be inscribed. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Poland followed by Croatia. Poland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The considered proposal for inscription of the Viking Age sites in Northern Europe is a new nomination. Nevertheless, it consists of 2 component parts from Denmark and Iceland that are already inscribed on the basis of the same values. The relationship between nominated component parts and already inscribed sites is not clear from the procedural point of view.
We should have in mind that this may set a precedent of high impact on the future of the World Heritage List. To make the on-ground situation more difficult to understand, proposed boundaries for those two are different to the current ones, and for Iceland's component, they cover only approximately 0.5% of the already inscribed property. Therefore, we would like to ask ICOMOS for information and comment on two issues. First is the general approach towards domination of already inscribed properties. And the second is, how can the outstanding universal value based on the same values be represented on two such different in size areas? Moreover, at this point, we would like to turn our attention to the fact that in the case of cultural properties, we observe for some time an alteration in the way nominations are constructed and the justification is formulated. These changes consist in a shift from inscribing properties which history and state of preservation justified the inscription to including stories rooted in physical space and told through simply symbolic elements chosen from among those who have been preserved. Properties cease to be understandable. Difficulty in transposition of these concepts onto the reality of the world and practical actions constitute a severe threat to the credibility of the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Croatia, followed by Lebanon. Croatia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Croatia finds the ICOMOS evaluation most acceptable and agrees that nomination could include sites in other neighboring countries, but asks whether on review the nomination could be upgraded to referral. Croatia feels that the condition of producing further scientific archaeological evidence is too restrictive. The sites date to a very early historical period in European civilization, so that archaeological investigation are necessarily a slow process. Croatia feels that the results shown to date are sufficient to support the upgrading of the nomination to referral. The state party would gain a little more time to bring the nomination into line with the recommendations of the advisory bodies in the matter of comparative analysis and to include measures to minimize the impact of moderate threats from potential visual intrusions in the landscape, especially new power lines, wind turbines and railways in the developing buffer zone. So once again, we support the upgrading of the nomination to referral. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Croatia. Lebanon, you have the floor, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Ce dossier, comme tous les dossiers de candidature en série et transnationaux, est très complexe. Si on comprend bien, le dossier avait été au départ présenté comme des exemples de formation d'État en Europe du Nord-Ouest et que les sites proposés pour l'inscription étaient présentés sur la base d'exemples de formation en État en Europe du Nord-Ouest. Après de longs dialogues et des allées-venues avec l'UNESCO, des représentants de l'ICOMOS ont été invités à participer à une réunion de comité directeur qui a permis de changer le fondement de la série proposée pour mettre en valeur la notion de série reflétant la manière dont le commerce, les raids et les établissements des Vikings ont contribué à l'évolution de l'Europe du Nord. Bon. Nous avons devant nous un texte qui s'appelle « Les informations aux États parties » qui a été envoyé par les États qui ont présenté le dossier de candidature. Mais ce texte, cette information rend les choses encore plus compliquées parce que cette information dit que le Danemark, l'Allemagne, la Lettonie et l'Islande ne sont pas d'accord avec les décisions du comité qui a préparé la proposition d'inscription. Bon. Et la Norvège, elle, n'est pas d'accord avec les 4 autres États pays et pense qu'il faut plutôt aller dans la direction d'ICOMOS. Si on ajoute à ça qu'il y a des pays qui ne sont pas représentés, comme déjà la Suède quand même, qui n'est pas représentée dans ce groupe, si on ajoute à ça qu'il y a des pays en dehors de la Scandinavie qui ne sont pas représentés, je pense que le dossier n'est pas assez mûr encore pour être présenté, ni pour passer en referral. Il faut donc donner du temps, il faut garder la recommandation de l'ICOMOS de différer le dossier aux États parties, de façon à ce que déjà les États parties s'entendent ensemble sur une présentation commune, intègrent d'autres États parties peut-être dedans, revoient l'ensemble du dossier pour le représenter au comité. Merci.
Thank you very much, Lebanon. Republic of Korea, you have the floor, followed by Peru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This nomination, I think, is especially the more commendable because it is a serial nomination put forward by 5 different states parties. All of us know how difficult it is to prepare a nomination dossier within just one country, and would appreciate the goodwill, trust, and collaboration displayed by all the participating state parties. We note that the ICOMOS recommendation for a deferral was based on the recommendation to explore the full scope, scale, and nature of the Viking Age. Whilst we do appreciate the need for a wider approach and that the full context would indeed be very helpful, but we are a little uneasy that this approach has to be initiated by only the 5 states parties to undertake this when we recognize that the Viking Age sites actually encompass a much wider arena or geographical territories. Thus, it should be sort of coordinated into the practice that we undertook for the Silk Roads project, perhaps with the advisory bodies in initiating a thematic study. As this property has been recommended for a deferral, we do believe that the OUV of the property as proposed in this nomination for these sites has definitely been recognized. Article 139 of the operational guidelines for serial properties stipulate that serial nominations may be submitted for evaluation over several nomination cycles, provided that the first property nominated is of outstanding universal value in its own right. So we would like to ask if it would be feasible for ICOMOS of having an overall study to be conducted in the coming years and gradually expanding this nomination as is recommended in the current draft decision, and to actually consider this nomination to be independently viable in displaying its OUV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Republic of Korea. Peru, you have the floor, followed by Kazakhstan.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta. El Perú, como los países que me han antecedido en el uso de la palabra, agradece a los países que han tenido la feliz iniciativa de presentar esta nominación al comité. Somos conscientes del interés de los países que han presentado la nominación seriada, pero al mismo tiempo creo que debemos tener en cuenta los argumentos de la evaluación realizada por ICOMOS. La nominación ha estado fundamentada esencialmente en torno a el aporte de los bienes seriados a la formación del Estado en el noroeste de Europa. Las reflexiones de ICOMOS respecto de este asunto nos parecen sumamente pertinentes. ICOMOS más bien sugiere que la nominación se podría construir en torno a la red de intercambios comerciales y al aporte de multiplicidad cultural que esa red de intercambios comerciales pudieron haber significado para la evolución de las sociedades en el área vikinga. Y al mismo tiempo sugiere, por otro lado, la posibilidad de fundamentar la inscripción más bien en los movimientos migratorios antes que en la formación del Estado. En todo caso, yo retengo de la exposición hecha por ICOMOS hace unos momentos una frase que me parece esencial, que la objeción está en función de la razón de ser de la serie. ¿Esto qué cosa quiere decir? Quiere decir que hay un problema con el centro, con la especificidad del valor universal excepcional que se quiere demostrar. Y si eso es así, creo que nuestra decisión debería ser la de reenviar el expediente a los Estados miembros para que puedan presentar una nueva formulación donde esa razón de ser del valor universal excepcional pues puede estar fundamentada de una forma muy rigurosa con la evolución histórica en la zona y atendiendo, entre otros factores, a las propias recomendaciones de ICOMOS. Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Peru. Kazakhstan, you have the floor, followed by Portugal.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We would like to thank state parties for preparing this serial week engaged nomination. We have started the information provided by the state parties in response to ICOMOS recommendations. Well, for the large serial nomination, the process of selection of component parts is a very complicated process. So we know it from our experience when preparing the Silk Road nomination. You remember. But according with our opinion, all features included in this nomination dossier are functionally important for outstanding universal value and are within defined boundaries. The second, sites which were chosen by respectable state parties are clear evidence of changes occurred during so-called Viking Age. These changes are reflected in distinctive Viking culture, architecture, ways of landscape, using what gives a basis for criteria 3 and 4. So the third, ICOMOS concern about necessity to reflect the full scope of architectural and landscape expressions of the Vikings, which in future, due possible massive extension could bring need to changing definitions, seems more for us just technical question and cannot weaken proposed IUV. We would suggest at the same time to strengthen part of the nomination dossier devoted to expansion and trade history during the Viking Age. And concerned state parties could give more detailed clarification, the better significance of the nominated sites. So we would like to support the previous speakers who proposed it for qualifying this nomination for referral.
Thank you, Kazakhstan. That was very clear. Portugal, followed by the Philippines.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie avant tout le Danemark, l'Allemagne, l'Islande, la Lettonie et la Norvège de cette candidature. J'ai bien écouté le rapport de l'ICOMOS, j'ai écouté ce qui a été dit par d'autres collègues avant moi, notamment l'intervention du délégué du Liban. J'ai pris bien note de ce que notre collègue polonaise avait dit aussi sur les inscriptions déjà de certains sites, donc une superposition en quelque sorte. Et je crois que la conclusion, c'est que au-delà de tous les mérites, ces patrimoines historiques partagés, patrimoine historique et culturel partagé, c'est toujours un peu, comme on dirait, tricky. Donc, et qui doivent être avant tout des éléments qui ramènent les pays ensemble, mais pas des éléments de division. Donc, je ne sais pas si le Portugal aurait quelque chose à voir là-dedans. J'ai vu que dans la carte, il y avait des routes de vikings qui passaient au large de nos côtes. Peut-être les rouquins qui existent au Portugal ont quelque chose à voir avec les Vikings. Je ne sais pas. Ce que je ne voudrais pas, c'est que cette candidature puisse être quelque chose qui divise. Je crois que notre rôle, c'est d'unir, pas de diviser. Donc, j'appuie avec... Et c'est une candidature qui a énormément d'estime pour moi, et même une dimension un peu mythologique. Mais je crois que pour le moment, il serait sage de garder la proposition de l'ICOMOS et faire appel aux États membres de revoir la matière et enfin, y ramener d'autres parties éventuellement intéressées pour que ce soit quelque chose non conflictuel. Merci.
Thank you very much, Portugal. Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Vikings and their ships enamored legends and defined histories of Europe. The Viking Age sites are testimonies to this era of conquest and trade, ambitious in scale, encompassing Europe and North America. Breathtaking in the time frame, Viking sites should be threaded by a narrative that is expressive of outstanding universal value. It would be interesting to note from how many sites did this nomination begin, and to what criteria were the final nominated sites were selected. We know that there were many routes, there were many sites, there were many evidences, and maybe many interpretations to this particular Viking Age sites. In this regard, we endorse the recommendation to ICOMOS for a thematic study on the Viking migration, which would define and focus on the values, at the same time, locus of sites to highlight an outstanding universal value. We endorse the recommendation of ICOMOS maybe for the state parties to go back to the planning table and encourage all the state parties to work closely with the World Heritage Center and advisory bodies to develop a very strong narrative and guarantee the eventual inscription of the Viking sites. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Philippines. Since there are no more committee members who wish to take the floor, I will turn here to ICOMOS. Algeria. I was wrong. Algeria wishes to take the floor. Algeria, you have the floor. Okay, Algeria does not wish to take the floor, so I will now turn to ICOMOS to respond to the queries raised from the floor from Poland and the Republic of Korea. ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps I could start by considering the issues raised by the Honourable Delegate from Poland, who is talking about the issue of sites already being inscribed, being included in a serial nomination. This is just to say that this has happened on quite a number of occasions, and I could give you a list of the Persian gardens that came forward, the Camino Real, the Loire Valley, and so on. There are quite a number where serial nominations have been inscribed and have included already inscribed sites. But I think that there is a but here, because it isn't necessarily the case that the two inscriptions are the same or for the same rationale. And that really feeds into the point that was raised by the Honourable Delegate from Korea, who was saying that under the terms of the operational guidelines, as two sites were already inscribed, this in effect was an extension of those sites. In reality, the outstanding universal value that was proposed for the series is not in line with the outstanding universal value that has been accepted for Jelling and Tingvellir. For example, in the series which we're now discussing, Jelling is related to Christianity and the Christianization of the Danish people, but in the inscription of Jelling, that is recognized, but its primary reason for putting it on the list is because it's an example of pagan Nordic culture. And Tingvellir in Iceland it was inscribed not only for the assembly area, but also for the very extensive landscape round about that was already being referred to, which related to settlements and other things as well. So what we have here is the inscribed sites are part of the series, but it's an element of those inscribed sites which is being related to the outstanding universal, proposed outstanding universal value of the series. So ICOMOS wouldn't consider that this series can be seen as an extension of either Jelling or Tingvellir. So I hope that clarifies those two issues. Thank you.
Thank you, ICOMOS. The question is to Poland and to the Republic of Korea. Trust your technical points have been clarified. I think so, since Poland, you're satisfied. I can see you nodding. Since there are no more committee members wishing to take the floor, I will turn now to the rapporteur for his advice.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In fact, I haven't received any amendments on this draft decision. Thank you.
Our rapporteur has clarified that there are no draft amendments that he has received on this draft decision, and therefore, if there are no more committee members who will take the floor at this stage, I will now move to declare draft decision 39Com 8B22 adopted. I will now request the German chair to kindly resume her place on stage.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, for chairing. And now I turn to the next nomination. It's a nomination of the climate terroirs of Burgundy, France, and first the Secretary? No, first then ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you put on? Thank you. The ICOMOS evaluation can be found at page 161 of the English version of document INF 8B1 and at page 248 of the French version. The Burgundy climates are precisely delimited vineyards parcels located on the slopes of the Côte de Nuit and of the Côte de Beaune, extending south of Dijon up to Marange. The Burgundy climates have been nominated as a serial site. However, ICOMOS considered that it can also be reputed as a cultural landscape. The nominated series comprises two components with one single buffer zone. The first component covers 1,247 vineyard parcels with associated productive units, rural villages, the town of Beaune, while the second component covers the historic core of Dijon. The area is marked by micro differences in soil, constituted by calcareous and clay formations. The latitude grants a temperate climate, longitude protects from the excesses of the continental and oceanic climates, while orography favors the mild influences of the Mediterranean climate. The word climat derives from the Greek klima, which indicated the slope of the ground, while in Latin the word klima indicated a measurement unit of 324 square meters used for farming land. Slope and farming units are both aspects embodied in the notion of climat. The climats of Burgundy materialized in an outstanding manner the long-lasting relationship of local human communities with their territory and their ability to identify, exploit, and distinguish their differences and potential throughout the centuries. This long process of construction has been influenced by many actors: the Cistercian monastic communities, which mark the territory with their specific production unit, the clos, encompassing the vineyard, the productive and residential areas, and even the quarry for building materials. Then, other relevant actors, the Duke of Burgundy, the bourgeoisie, the commissioners with their maison de négoce, the independent vine grower and winemakers. These many actors and factors are convincingly illustrated by the components of the series and by the functional role played by rural areas, the villages, and the two urban elements, Beaune and Dijon. The nominated part of the historic core of Dijon includes attributes illustrating the regulatory factors that favor the progressive differentiation of the climats in relation to their features and to those of the wines therein produced. Following dialogue between the State Party and ICOMOS, the boundaries of the Dijon component have been reduced so as to include only the area with attributes directly related to the historic development of the climats. On the other hand, the town of Beaune reflects the commercial aspect of the Burgundy wine enterprise and its changes from the system of appointed courtier gourmet to expert sellers with their maison de négoce relying on the expertise of intermediaries. The protection of the property relies on a composite ensemble of legal, regulatory, and planning tools stemming from different laws on the cultural heritage, the environment, the urban spaces, and forests. Many of these instruments are already in place, while other ones are under elaboration and must be finalized. Coordination in this sense would also ensure an improved effectiveness of protection. However, south of Beaune, a large tract of the properties is only covered by the cahier de charge of the Appellation d'origine contrôlée, which do not contain all measures necessary to ensure the adequate protection of the minute attributes of the proposed outstanding universal value. Despite the protection measures in place, development mainly in the urban areas, for instance in Dijon, but also in certain productive zones close to smaller towns, as well as transportation and energy infrastructures, affected limited areas of the property and therefore required control, while excessive traffic needs ad hoc strategies in this sense. The reduction of the minute landscape mosaic due to mechanized farming practices, along with some visual impacts from active quarries in the area of Comblachen, also represent factors that need to be monitored and controlled. In this regard, it is crucial that the landscape plan for the quarry district be finalized and implemented. Elements related to the traditional farming need also comprehensive mapping and conservation through appropriate techniques. The management system envisions a territorial charter that defining common objectives and engaging all parties to protect the property. Effective management is sought through the establishment of the Mission Climat de Bourgogne. It includes a decisional coordinating body, an operational body, which is the Technical Commission, a scientific committee, and the Participation Forum for Citizens and Civil Society. A management document depicts the management system. So in summary, ICOMOS has found the condition of integrity have been met, although changes to the landscape mosaic need to be controlled and visual disturbances from development and quarries remedied. Authenticity is well supported by the property's attributes, and the extensive comparative analysis fully justifies consideration of this property for the voltage list under the proposed criteria. The boundaries of the property are adequate following the modification to the Dijon component. Protection, as illustrated above, needs substantial strengthening, especially in the area south of Beaune, while to achieve a good level of conservation, other action need to be finalized. In summary, therefore, ICOMOS considered that although the outstanding universal value of the property has been fully demonstrated, the recommendation of ICOMOS is to refer back the property to the state party so as to allow to extend the protection to the entirety of the property and to finalize the landscape plan and related regulations for the quarry district. And there are also ancillary recommendations concerning traffic, planning tool, coordination, and management of the property as a cultural landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to invite the committee members to express their comments. And I see the first one, it's Lebanon, then Portugal. Lebanon, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le dossier de candidature des climats de Bourgogne soulève une problématique extrêmement intéressante concernant les différentes catégories de la liste du patrimoine mondial. Le dossier préparé par l'État partie présente les climats de Bourgogne comme un site culturel et l'ICOMOS, dans son évaluation, pencherait plutôt vers un classement en paysage culturel. La justification contenue dans le dossier présenté par l'État partie pour retenir la catégorie de site culturel plutôt que celle de paysage culturel se base sur le fait que les climats constituent une mosaïque paysagère composée de parcelles de vignobles précisément délimitées, identifiées par des noms spécifiques, définis par des enclos, des murs, des haies, des chemins encore lisibles dans le paysage. Les climats sont distincts les uns des autres du fait de leurs conditions naturelles spécifiques, travaillées par le travail humain et progressivement identifiées par rapport aux vins qu'ils produisent. Plutôt que d'englober tout ça dans une catégorie fourre-tout, excusez-moi de le dire, qui s'appellerait paysage culturel, il nous semblerait très intéressant de retenir la catégorie site culturel qui prend en compte les spécificités des différents climats. Dans les faits, cette distinction entre site culturel et paysage culturel peut paraître très théorique, puisque le système de planification et de gestion proposé par l'État partie présente un haut niveau d'interconnexion et d'articulation qui constitue un cadre approprié pour la protection du bien. Sans vouloir lancer ici un débat théorique, si les Comos insistent pour le classement du site en paysage culturel, nous n'y serions pas opposés. Il nous paraît néanmoins intéressant au niveau méthodologique de retenir le classement du bien proposé par l'État partie comme site culturel qui correspond mieux aux spécificités des climats de Bourgogne. Concernant la recommandation de l'ICOMOS de renvoyer le bien à l'État partie pour lui permettre d'étendre la protection réglementaire aux zones situées au sud de Beaune, nous lisons dans le rapport d'ICOMOS que la côte sud de Beaune a été enregistrée comme site classé en 1992 et qu'une procédure a été lancée pour créer 2 autres sites classés au nord du site pour la côte de Beaune et au niveau de la côte de Nuit. En cohérence avec la recommandation de l'ICOMOS et la décision du comité d'inscrire le site de Christiansfeld au Danemark, malgré les réserves sur le système de protection du site, nous proposons donc, ne serait-ce que pour des raisons d'équité et de cohérence, d'inscrire directement les climats de Bourgogne sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci.
Thank you. And now Portugal, then India, Vietnam. Yeah, followed by several others. I start with Portugal. Portugal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le Portugal a introduit un amendement au projet de décision dans le sens de l'inclusion immédiate de ces biens dans le patrimoine mondial. Je remercie le représentant du Liban pour son approche. La nôtre est quelque peu différente, mais complémentaire. Et ce n'est pas seulement parce que nous aimons beaucoup le Bourgogne, mais parce que, tout comme la nomination coteaux, maisons et caves de Champagne, que nous analyserons par la suite, nous considérons que le dossier des climats de Bourgogne est tout aussi solide et répond aux critères en vue de l'inscription au patrimoine mondial. Cette évaluation a par ailleurs été validée par ICOMOS dans son excellent rapport. La valeur exceptionnelle universelle est clairement établie et tous les critères en vue de l'inscription nous semblent amplement satisfaits. Pour ce qui est des recommandations additionnelles demandées par ICOMOS, elles portent sur la protection et la conservation du bien, ainsi que sur l'impact de certains éléments sur le paysage au niveau du périmètre du bien et de sa zone tampon. Les informations additionnelles fournies par la France confirment cependant que les engagements nécessaires pour y répondre d'une façon complète et rapide ont été pris. Comme nous le savons, la loi française assure un niveau très élevé de protection pour les sites classés et les zones protégées. De toute manière, nous ne parlons ici que de 1,9% du bien, et je reviendrai sur cet aspect. Madame la Présidente, l'engagement de la France concernant la protection de l'ensemble du bien, ainsi que la finalisation du plan de paysage dans les plus brefs délais, sont pour nous des garanties suffisantes pour que les climats de Bourgogne soient inscrits dès aujourd'hui dans la liste du patrimoine mondial. Cependant, pour qu'aucun doute ne reste sur la question, et puisque ICOMOS motive son avis de renvoi par le manque de protection sur un secteur réduit de la surface totale du site, je souhaiterais demander, Madame la Présidente, par votre intermédiaire, des précisions sur ce point à l'État partie, et je vous remercie.
Thank you. India has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining Lebanon and Portugal, India has no hesitation in recommending this unique cultural landscape for inscription to the World Heritage List. The reasons are the following. The outstanding universal value of the property has been demonstrated and acknowledged by ICOMOS. Likewise, the authenticity, integrity, and history of the property are not in question, and again, acknowledged by ICOMOS. As far as its protection is concerned, we are aware that ICOMOS has raised certain concerns, as evidenced from its presentation, but we are equally convinced, as is Portugal and Lebanon, that the French will be able to address these concerns in due time, very, very shortly. In summary, Madam Chair, India has absolutely no hesitation, therefore, in recommending this prestigious, this unique, this diverse and very fine cultural landscape for inscription to the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. Vietnam, followed by Senegal, Korea, and Peru. Vietnam, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, sur le dossier de candidature du climat de Bourgogne, la délégation du Vietnam a vu que nous souhaitons en fait reprendre la dernière phrase qui a été exprimée par les représentants d'ICOMOS, que la VUE est pleinement démontrée. Et en plus, nous souhaitons également souligner que 3 facteurs sont considérés essentiels mutuellement complémentaires dans le processus progressif de construction, de reconnaissance, de différenciation des climats, dont ils sont une dimension productive, un aspect politique et réglementaire et un facteur commercial et de distribution. Et en plus, je vois aussi ici dans cette nomination quelque chose de la campagne, de la ville, de l'urbanisme, les vignobles, l'espace de résidence, les viticulteurs, mais aussi la tradition, l'identité culturelle, la culture de vin, le savoir-vivre, mais aussi est très intéressant les différents climats eux-mêmes. Donc, avec votre permission, Madame la Présidente, est-ce que je peux demander l'État partie de répondre à 2 questions pour lesquelles l'ICOMOS propose le renvoi de cette nomination? Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The State Party...
No. You have to wait, please. Yeah. First, the comments of the members of the committee, and that means Senegal now.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous avons étudié le dossier qui a été présenté par l'ICOMOS, qui a fait quand même un compte-rendu très détaillé de tous les échanges, y compris épistolaires, qu'il y a eu entre l'organisation consultative et l'État partie. Suite à cette analyse, nous pensons comme le Portugal, le Liban et ceux qui viennent de s'exprimer, que ce site présente des qualités exceptionnelles, comme le reconnaît d'ailleurs l'ICOMOS, qui considère que la VUE est attestée, qui considère que les critères 3 et 5 sont justifiés, et qui considère aussi, au niveau de l'intégrité, au niveau de l'authenticité, qu'il y a des facteurs absolument probants qui montrent que la valeur universelle exceptionnelle de ce bien est tout à fait justifiée, quel que soit l'angle de lecture, qu'il s'agisse d'un paysage ou simplement des climats. Sur cette base-là, nous pensons, comme le Portugal l'a déjà proposé, que ce site mérite d'intégrer la liste du patrimoine mondial. D'autant plus que finalement, au niveau des réserves émises par l'ICOMOS, au niveau des recommandations, il n'y a que 2 éléments, à notre avis, assez factuels sur la protection et les instruments juridiques. Et nous pensons que l'État partie, si on lui donne la parole, devrait être en mesure d'apporter des réponses satisfaisantes. Merci.
Fine, thank you. Korea, and then Peru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to echo the points raised by previous speakers, including Lebanon, Portugal, and India. Korea notes that a referral has been recommended so that France could respond to the request of ICOMOS to extend the protection of the property and finalize the landscape plan, including the Kori districts. However, the nomination dossier and the evaluation recognizes many different layers of legal protection is already put in place for the property. Extending unilateral legal protection on a property which has extensive area and different usages as cultural landscapes is generally not an easy task, and we do believe that diverse layers of different legal frameworks within the state party can be respected fully. In fact, diverse layers of legal protection could actually benefit from protecting the property with many different approaches. I have also understood from materials provided that the state party is actually in the processes of finalizing the landscape plan, including Kori district. I believe it is an ongoing process actually implementing the recommendations of ICOMOS, and that we could trust the state party to implement it in its full volume. In this regard, we are in favor of the inscription of the sites, and we would like to listen to the position of France regarding these two issues pointed out by ICOMOS. Thank you.
Thank you. Peru, you have the floor. Peru.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Los climas de la Borgoña, parcelas vitivinícolas delimitadas con mucha especificidad y ubicadas en las laderas de la Côte de Nuit y de la Côte de Beaune, presentan características especiales y diferencias de la tierra y sus interacciones con el clima que dotan a cada parcela de una especificidad propia en la producción vitivinícola desde el siglo XV. Por esa razón, el Perú coincide con la evaluación de ICOMOS, que ha reconocido el valor universal excepcional del bien con base a los criterios 3 y 5, especialmente en función de la percepción que el BUE del bien reside en la permanencia de las características singulares de cada clima en relación a la composición de la tierra, su particular interacción con el clima y los conocimientos de la actividad vitivinícola. Este hecho, junto con las expresiones territoriales del paisaje y la naturaleza, otorgan a la candidatura los méritos suficientes, creo yo, con mucha amplitud para ser inscrita en la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. Las objeciones de ICOMOS se han centrado no en la demostración del valor universal excepcional del bien, ni en la comprobación que sí hace de los criterios de integridad y de autenticidad, sino en la necesidad de que el Estado parte desarrolle algunas regulaciones y resuelva algunas cuestiones específicas que atañen a menos del 5% de la totalidad de la extensión del bien, con la finalidad de mejorar su preservación y protección. El gobierno de Francia ha expresado con mucha claridad su compromiso, un rígido y amplio compromiso, para completar los instrumentos legales reglamentarios y su aplicación a la totalidad del bien, especialmente al sur de Bonn, entre la ruta RD 974 y la línea ferroviaria. Al mismo tiempo, el gobierno de Francia ha expresado de una manera bastante clara e incontestable su decisión de sensibilizar a las colectividades territoriales competentes en la mejora de los instrumentos de planificación en torno al desarrollo urbanístico que eventualmente pudiese afectar al bien, lo mismo que en relación a los estudios de impacto ambiental que aseguren que la explotación de las canteras de piedra y sus impactos visuales e hidrogeológicos no tengan un efecto que pueda afectar el BUE. Por todo ello, señora presidenta, creo que se ha generado un amplio consenso que además coincide con la evaluación de ICOMOS de reconocer el valor universal del bien, y por esa razón el Perú respalda con firmeza su inclusión en la lista del patrimonio mundial. Muchas gracias.
Now, Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora Presidente. Colombia quiere destacar que este caso representa un ejemplo concreto y positivo del proceso de interlocución entre los Estados parte y los órganos asesores, en apego a los métodos de trabajo establecidos por ICOMOS y actualmente vigentes para el proceso de evaluación. ICOMOS y el gobierno francés sostuvieron diálogos a nivel científico necesario para complementar la información adicional, así como aclarar todos los aspectos relativos al valor universal y la estructura de manejo del sitio, tal como fue explicado en el expediente. Colombia está de acuerdo con la propuesta de ICOMOS para que se cambie la categoría del sitio de paisaje cultural, con lo cual el Estado parte se ha manifestado conforme. Entendemos que, dada la complejidad en el sistema legal francés, el Estado parte complementará la información disponible con un informe detallado sobre la estructura normativa que aplica para asegurar la protección del sitio, la cual es robusta y garantiza plenamente su conservación. Por lo anterior, Colombia apoya el proyecto de decisión y la enmienda presentada por Portugal y otros estados, ya que el valor universal excepcional del sitio está demostrado. Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you. And now Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for rushing in the beginning. Madam Chair, the microclimates of Burgundy clearly demonstrate its evolution and development across the centuries through the well-preserved landscape, ancestral knowledge and expertise that have evolved through centuries. It reflects a continuation and evolution of long-lasting cultural traditions and festive rituals among local communities, very specific to the indigenous nature of this site. The evolution of wine production in the area and its commercialization also illustrates the story of patronage, control, tradition, and protection of the nature and the climatic peculiarities. We agree with the advisory body in that the category of denominated property also should be seen from the cultural perspective. The State Party confirmed that it is in the process of implementation and extension of the regulatory protective measures, which will be operational from 2017 and 2018. The State Party also ensures the launch of a study for the possible extension of the classified site of the south of Côte de Beaune. Having heard all these explanations of the State Party and observed the management and protection of the property, our delegation is convinced that this site well deserves inscription. But we would also, like other speakers, to hear from the State Party their commitment to continue the successive steps, and also to inform us a little further about what they are planning to do concerning the quarries sector in the buffer zone. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And now Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This site is one of the most important examples of cultural landscape which deeply connected to the production process of wine. One of the main concerns to this kind of nomination is comparative analysis, because we all know in France and even all over the world there are many important vineyards. However, in this case, ICOMOS evaluation recognized that sufficient analysis has been done and provided enough rationale for putting this site on the World Heritage List in this regard. To this site, ICOMOS recognized OUV. In its evaluation, the site meets criteria 3 and 5. It has sufficient integrity and authenticity. The only issue is protection. Having carefully led the ICOMOS evaluation, the issues raised here are related to mainly protection. Although ICOMOS pointed out that it is needed that extended the protection through regulatory instruments, etc. But we understand that even at this moment, there are already protection schemes for all properties, although they are not uniform, and that the local stakeholders have had a strong will to preserve the environment of this site through history. Furthermore, the nominating state party have clear intention to strengthen it through using AVAP scheme, etc. Therefore, Japan would like to support inscription of this site rather than referral. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Algeria.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous félicitons ICOMOS et l'État partie pour leur excellente collaboration, la qualité du travail effectué en vue de l'inscription du bien, les climats du vignoble de Bourgogne. Le rapport qui en est présenté nous a permis d'en saisir les spécificités. Ce rapport confirme que tous les éléments fondamentaux requis pour la VIE sont justifiés. Éléments qui militent en faveur de l'inscription de ce bien sur la liste du patrimoine mondial que nous soutenons, compte tenu notamment de la rigueur des différents instruments juridiques de protection des sites, d'aménagement et d'urbanisme, d'environnement, qui fondent la protection légale appliquée à ce bien. Protection légale complexe et rigoureuse qui n'aurait de sens et d'efficacité que si elle est acceptée et partagée par la population qui y vit et qui y travaille. Madame la Présidente, avec votre permission, nous aimerions entendre l'État partie, la France, sur ce point particulier de l'adhésion participative citoyenne à ce projet d'envergure. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
I see we have an increasing consensus to inscribe the site. May I ask, is there anybody who disagrees? No. Then it would be possible to give the floor to France. You agree? Yeah, fine. Thank you. France, you have the floor. There were some questions. Would you please so kind to give your answers?
Merci Madame la Présidente. Il y a eu en effet de très nombreuses questions. Je ne suis pas sûr d'arriver à y répondre de manière détaillée et argumentée en 2 minutes. Je vais vous demander votre indulgence et je vais essayer d'être le plus synthétique possible et d'aller à l'essentiel. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier l'ensemble des États membres du comité qui se sont exprimés et ceux qui ne se sont pas exprimés pour manifester leur soutien à l'inscription des climats de Bourgogne. Je voudrais également remercier l'ICOMOS pour la qualité de son rapport d'évaluation sur cette candidature. Je remercie aussi d'avoir reconnu non seulement la valeur universelle exceptionnelle de ce site, mais également l'essentiel des éléments de cette candidature. Et je tiens également à dire ici la qualité, l'excellence même, du dialogue qui s'est engagé entre nous et ICOMOS, à la fois pendant et après la phase d'évaluation. En réponse à plusieurs questions posées par les membres du comité sur les mécanismes de protection, et c'est en effet un élément important qui figure dans le rapport d'ICOMOS. En fait, l'ICOMOS a validé dans ce rapport les protections en place sur l'essentiel de la surface du bien, mais il s'interroge en effet, comme certains d'entre vous l'ont remarqué, sur l'existence de protections adéquates et efficaces sur une partie minime du site, 2% en fait. Sur cette partie-là, je voudrais faire juste 3 remarques rapidement. La première, c'est que certaines protections sont en place, y compris sur cette partie mineure, minime du site. Non seulement elles sont en place, mais elles sont contraignantes. Il ne faut pas qu'il y ait de doute dans votre esprit sur ce point, et elles peuvent encore être renforcées, bien sûr. Deuxièmement, de manière générale, la France dispose d'outils réglementaires et de planification, certains l'ont relevé, efficaces, qui s'appliquent à l'ensemble de son territoire et qui, bien sûr, s'appliquent à ce bien particulier, offrant des protections adéquates. Enfin, C'est là la complexité du dispositif législatif et réglementaire français, la difficulté à l'expliquer, la difficulté à le comprendre également. C'est la combinaison et la complémentarité de ces outils, différents outils, des différents niveaux d'instruments juridiques qui assurent une protection efficace du bien, conformément, en pleine conformité, j'incite, avec les exigences de la Convention du patrimoine mondial. C'est la première série de questions qui m'était adressée. Deuxième série de questions qui concerne les carrières et le plan de paysage. Là aussi, je voudrais faire 3 remarques rapides afin de rassurer tout le monde. D'une part, ces carrières ne se situent pas dans la zone centrale du bien, mais dans la zone tampon. D'ailleurs, elles ne sont pas visibles de la zone centrale. Deuxièmement, ces carrières sont aussi anciennes que le paysage dont nous parlons, et son exploitation est séculaire. Troisièmement, la pérennité de cette activité d'extraction participe en fait à la préservation de l'intégrité et de l'authenticité du bien, notamment pour la restauration des éléments bâtis. En d'autres termes, il y aurait une contradiction à nous demander de fermer ces carrières en même temps qu'à nous faire obligation de préserver les biens de la zone centrale. J'ajoute que le plan de paysage qui est prévu dans le plan de gestion sera mis en œuvre dès le début de l'année 2016, dans 6 mois, et s'ajoutera à l'ensemble des dispositifs réglementaires existants. Pour conclure rapidement sur ces 2 points, la France réitère ici solennellement devant vous son engagement à protéger le bien et sa valeur universelle exceptionnelle, bien sûr. Elle s'engage également à rendre compte aux membres du comité de la mise en œuvre de l'ensemble des outils que je viens d'évoquer lors d'une prochaine session du comité. En 1 minute pour finir, Madame la Présidente, sur une question très importante à nos yeux et qu'a soulevée la délégation algérienne, et je leur remercie. Les climats du vignoble de Bourgogne sont, vous l'avez rappelé les uns et les autres, le témoignage vivant d'un patrimoine, d'une culture, d'une histoire, de savoir-faire qui sont transmis de génération en génération, et cela depuis des siècles. Ils attestent un attachement viscéral de ce territoire à sa vocation viticole, et cela explique la forte mobilisation depuis maintenant plus de 10 ans au soutien de cette candidature. C'est là, et c'est le plus important, la meilleure garantie qui nous est donnée à nous tous, à vous au premier chef, de la parfaite préservation de ce site pour les générations à venir. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Then I turn to the rapporteur because we have an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Yes, in fact, an important amendment has been brought by both states parties, Portugal and Vietnam. Donc d'abord au paragraphe 2, donc le Portugal et le Vietnam proposent un amendement dans le sens de l'inscription des climats de Bourgogne de France en France sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en tant que paysage culturel sur la base des critères 3 et 5. Ainsi, le Comité du patrimoine mondial prend note de la déclaration de valeur universelle exceptionnelle provisoire suivante. Donc le texte va être ajouté plus tard. Par conséquent, le Comité du patrimoine mondial recommande que l'État partie prenne en considération les points suivants. Donc, selon le Portugal et le Vietnam, ensemble, d'abord de compléter la protection par le biais d'instruments réglementaires à l'ensemble du bien. Et le Vietnam tout seul propose de supprimer donc, la précision géographique, en particulier aux zones situées au sud de Beaune, entre la route RD 974 et la ligne de chemin de fer. La suite est supprimée par le Portugal et le Vietnam pour inscription, afin que tous les attributs qui matérialisent l'évolution historique des climats soient protégés. Donc la dernière phrase est gardée. Donc, et puis donc, la suite des recommandations suivant l'inscription est faite par le Portugal et le Vietnam. Les 2 États rajoutent un nouveau 4E, paragraphe 4E, sensibiliser les collectivités territoriales compétentes à l'amélioration progressive de leurs instruments de planification afin d'assurer l'adaptation rapide des plans locaux d'urbanisme aux objectifs et à la logique des SCOT, en supprimant le restant du petit e. Et finalement, donc un petit i au paragraphe 4. Le Portugal et le Vietnam donc supprime la première partie, les deux États membres suppriment la première partie, mais le Portugal tout seul en rajoute, donc modifie le petit i et donc rajoute la phrase suivante, garantir conformément l'État partie doit garantir conformément à la législation nationale et notamment au plan de paysage que les études d'impact relatives aux demandes de renouvellement des concessions de carrière devront démontrer que les impacts visuels ou hydrogéologiques liés à l'exploitation du sous-sol ne portent pas atteinte à la VUE du bien. Un dernier paragraphe 5 est ajouté par le Portugal et le Vietnam. L'État partie doit demander, le comité demande à l'État partie de soumettre au Centre du patrimoine mondial.
Thank you. So my question is quite a lot of amendments, but I would like to ask, do you agree with the whole amendments? Finland, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we scroll up to the beginning of the decision, please?
Of course, please.
I can see in paragraph 2 that the suggestion now is to inscribe this as a cultural landscape, which was not really what we were discussing, in my opinion, here in the plenary. I would like to recall that for example, Lebanon thought that the presentation that was as a site was the most accurate one. And actually, if we change this now to a cultural landscape at this stage, I think it will cause problems within the draft decision, because the site was not really evaluated as a cultural landscape. And I would like to hear ICOMOS on this issue, how if they could explain to us how this would affect the decision if we change this to a cultural landscape from a site that it was from in the original draft decision. Thank you.
Fine. So we will stick to this paragraph 2, and I ask ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As was requested before also by the distinguished delegate of Lebanon, an ICOMOS comment on this point of cultural landscape. ICOMOS and ICOMOS panel discussed in length the issue of this property being presented as a site and not as a cultural landscape, as in fact the ICOMOS panel has found that is possibly one of the best examples of cultural landscape that could be inscribed on the list, and not based on generic visual dimension, but because of the progressive construction of the knowledge and relationship between the people of the land and the soil. So also the criteria, both criteria could apply, and particularly criterion 5 applies very well to cultural landscape. So in terms of the decision, ICOMOS considered that inscribing the property as a cultural landscape would really reflect the values and the outstanding universal value of the property. So in this sense, ICOMOS would really support an inscription as a cultural landscape as proposed by Vietnam and Portugal delegations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, ICOMOS recommends to inscribe as a cultural landscape. So could you agree with that?
ICOMOS explanation fully satisfies us. Thank you for that.
Thank you for this clarification. So I would suggest we could adopt Lebanon, sorry. Lebanon, you have the floor.
Oui, excusez-moi, Madame la Présidente. On ne s'opposera pas à la proposition de l'ICOMOS, mais le Liban considère qu'au niveau scientifique et théorique, il aurait été plus intéressant de garder la proposition en tant que site culturel. Mais on ne s'opposera pas à la proposition de l'ICOMOS.
Are there any other comments? Algeria.
Madame la Présidente, merci. Nous soutenons la proposition du Liban. Merci.
And now Peru.
Gracias. El Perú respalda el conjunto de las propuestas efectuadas por Portugal y por Vietnam. Gracias.
It means a cultural landscape you would support. Yeah, I see. 2 for cultural site and others for cultural landscape, and Germany.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Germany also supports the inscription of the nomination as a cultural landscape as proposed by Portugal and Vietnam. Thank you.
Now Sri. Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We also support the site to be inscribed as a cultural landscape.
Who doesn't agree with cultural landscape? Croatia? It's Croatia.
Merci, Madame la Chair. Aussi, la délégation de la Croatie soutient l'amendement proposé par la délégation du Portugal. Merci beaucoup.
Well, that means a cultural landscape. So we could adopt it as a cultural landscape, I think. This amendment is adopted, and as you told all the amendments, well, I declare the amendments adopted, and that means the amended decision 39.8b.23 is adopted. It's a great pleasure for me to congratulate France on behalf of the entire committee for the inscription of this wonderful property. France, you have the floor for a brief 2-minute statement. Just we have to wait 1 minute.
He has to do it all over again now, the next one.
Yeah.
You say France, you have the floor.
France, you have the floor. Please use it. I know there are a lot of congratulations, but you will have some congratulations after the next item. Well, you have the floor, please.
Madame la Présidente. Oui, c'est bon. Je voudrais à nouveau remercier les experts d'ICOMOS ainsi que le Centre du patrimoine mondial, tous les membres du comité et peut-être et surtout l'équipe qui est à mes côtés et qui a porté cette candidature depuis si longtemps. À titre tout à fait personnel, j'ai la chance de connaître un peu, même de bien connaître cette belle région de Bourgogne, pour y avoir passé une partie de mon enfance et de mon adolescence. J'en suis parti à regret, en culotte courte, et j'y reviens toujours avec un très grand plaisir. Et je peux vous assurer, comme je vous l'ai dit tout à l'heure, non seulement elle mérite l'honneur que vous lui faites aujourd'hui, mais qu'elle saura s'en montrer digne. Je passe sans plus tarder la parole à Aubert de Vilaine. En plus d'être l'heureux propriétaire du domaine de la Romanée-Conti, qui est le Graal de tout amateur de vin, il a été l'âme de cette candidature depuis plus de 10 ans. Je vous remercie.
All right. Then you have the floor.
Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du comité, Mesdames, Messieurs, du fond du cœur, je vous remercie. Les climats de Bourgogne que vous venez d'inscrire sur la liste du patrimoine mondial sont l'héritage d'une très longue histoire qui lie des hommes, une culture, une terre et une plante noble, la vigne. De ce mariage est résultée une incomparable mosaïque de terroirs, les climats, et un vignoble qui est regardé par tous les vignerons du monde, que je salue aujourd'hui, comme le berceau de la viticulture de terroir, celle qui veut identifier le vin le plus finement possible avec le lieu où est implantée la vigne qu'il produit. Outil de travail des hommes, mais aussi paysage et creuset d'une culture unique, les climats forment un bien complexe à appréhender. Nous remercions ICOMOS et le comité d'en avoir compris toute la richesse. Je pense aujourd'hui à ces générations de vignerons qui, depuis 2000 ans, ont travaillé sur les climats, ces hommes et ces femmes qui ont façonné cette terre noble mais dure en un labeur millénaire pour y produire des vins qui sont parmi les plus recherchés de la planète. Ce qui était remarquable, c'est combien la candidature au patrimoine mondial a créé chez tous les acteurs du territoire une importante et j'espère durable prise de conscience, celle de la responsabilité que nous avons tous de conserver l'intégrité et l'authenticité d'un territoire qui, depuis des siècles, a permis à des communautés humaines de vivre et de se développer harmonieusement. La reconnaissance par UNESCO du modèle de terroir bourguignon est révélatrice de l'importance qu'ont pour l'humanité des productions agriculturelles fondées sur une extrême diversité et la recherche de l'excellence à travers des structures productives familiales de petite taille. Il est essentiel de les préserver et de les promouvoir. Cela aussi, vous l'avez compris. Je remercie du fond du cœur tous ceux qui se sont mobilisés autour de nous pour bâtir le dossier de candidature. Je suis fier pour eux et pour tous ceux qui nous ont accompagnés pendant la longue aventure qui nous a amenés jusqu'à cet hémicycle pour voir légitimer par vous la candidature d'un grand patrimoine viticole français qui devient aujourd'hui patrimoine du monde. C'est un grand jour pour nous, un jour de joie et de fierté, mais surtout un jour qui s'ouvre sur l'avenir. Le site des climats, je le répète, est un site vivant. Il nous appartient aujourd'hui de le conserver ainsi, vivant, ouvert sur le futur et fort des valeurs que vous lui avez reconnues et que nous nous engageons aujourd'hui à sauvegarder.
Thank you. All the best for this new World Heritage. And now we turn to the next one, Champagne Hillside, Houses and Cellars. And ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The ICOMOS evaluation of this property can be found at page 174 of the English version of document INF 8B1 at page 262 of the French version. The nominated serial property encompasses the area and places where the method of production of sparkling wines developed from its beginning in the 17th century until its early industrialization in the 19th century. It illustrates how the evolution of champagne production has marked the territory, the landscape, and the urban layout and structures. The components of the series are clustered into 3 distinct groups, reflecting key processes of this agro-industrial system as the milestone of its evolution from a refined artisanal craft to a capitalist site-based enterprise. The historic vineyards of Haute-Vière A and Marais A comprise 7 components reflecting the phase of cultivation and grape growing, and includes the most ancient cultivated vineyards in the area, the Haute-Vière Abbey, and the earlier system of underground cellars. The Saint-Nicaise Hill in Reims covers 4 components illustrating the integration of the mature system of production and its impact on the urban spaces, and shows the conversion of the ancient quarries into cellars. The Avenue of Champagne and the Fort Chabrol in Epernay depict the trade aspects and its international scope, and the representation dimension of the Champagne enterprise. The Champagne wine region is the northernmost area for vine growing. Climate has considerable influence on grape productivity, and here mild summers, sun exposure, and temperature allow for long maturation of the grape. Beyond climate, the presence of chalk formations is the other key factor in the development for Champagne, as the limestone bedrock acts as a water reservoir that releases humidity when needed throughout the growing season. The soft limestone has been since early used as a building material, and so former underground quarries were converted into cellars for their stable microclimate, essential for the fermentation in bottle, a key process for champagne. The historic hillsides with Haute-Villiers Abbey attest to the first experiments carried out from the 17th century onwards to set up a stable and reproducible method to obtain sparkling wines. They also show the crucial role of local geomorphology, as re-fermentation responsible for effervescence requires an enormous amount of underground space. The need for easy transportation and the presence of watercourses were also crucial for the distribution of the product and its fortune throughout the centuries. Saint-Nicaise-Île in Reims illustrate the role played by production facilities and infrastructure and of their integration into the landscape and the urban layout. The extensive network of underground former quarries converted into cellars favored the champagne production, which changed in scale to become a real enterprise when investors and entrepreneurs from other sectors, including the textile industry, decided to devote to wine commerce and afterwards also to wine production. Capital investments triggered modernization and expansion of wine production, which was accompanied by the improvement of communication routes, that for example the construction of the railway, and the stabilization of sparkling wine making process. The avenue of Champagne in Epernay, with the commerce houses, the showcasing spaces, the underground cellars, and the transportation system throughout waterways or railway, illustrate the interrelation among production, distribution, and marketing, as well as the importance of communication and trade routes that facilitated the diffusion of this product and its impact on the urban structure of Epernay. ICOMOS found that the selection of the component of the serial property is clear and convincing. The conditions of the component satisfy both integrity and authenticity, despite some losses suffered during the Second World War and some reconstruction and modification concerning architectural detail within the villages. The comparative analysis has been extensive. With the integration asked for by ICOMOS, it fully justifies the relevance of the property for the World-Heritage List under all selected criteria 3, 4, and 6. The boundaries have been carefully drawn, and after the enlargement of the buffer zone in Epernay to cover also the underground component of the nominated property, are adequate to depict the values and processes of the Champagne enterprise and to protect them. Protection is granted by an array of legal and planning instruments, part of which already existing and other under finalization. The conservation state and measures are overall adequate, although rural heritage need to be sustained. The management relies on an interrelated system of existing instruments complemented by a territorial charter signed by relevant actors of the nominated property in the buffer zone at the wider Champagne region. And this engages all signatories to integrate the values of the property in all development activities. A technical body, the Mission Coteau Maison et Cave Champagne, is planned to be established by the end of 2015 and will be equipped with its own staff. On the ground of the additional information and the clear commitment of the state party concerning the finalization of the protection of the property, ICOMOS recommends that the Coteau Maison et Cave Champagne, France, be inscribed on the World-Heritage List on the ground of criteria 3, 4, and 6. A series of ancillary recommendations to be progressively implemented have also been put forth, and this could be found in the draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I give the floor for any comments. I see Lebanon and then Finland. I guess nearly everybody wants to give a comment. Lieber Non, you have the floor. It takes time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two small words. Le monde profane s'est toujours posé la question, comment se fait-il que les coteaux, maisons et caves de Champagne n'étaient pas encore inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial? Maintenant que c'est fait, justice est faite. Félicitations pour la Champagne. Merci.
Thank you. Now, Finland. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland fully supports the inscription of Champagne hillsides, houses and cellars in France to the World Heritage List. There are already many vineyard landscapes on the World Heritage List, but Champagne will take its special place among these and make the group more complete than ever before. The comparative analysis is impressive to the point that ICOMOS think it goes beyond the scope. The outstanding universal value is there, the integrity has been justified, the authenticity demonstrated, and the criteria has been met. Furthermore, the conservation and management is adequate and the protection is in place. Let us go ahead and inscribe this important nomination to the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Turkey and then Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Champagne has a special place, symbolizing celebration, beauty, harmony, and conciliation in whichever culture or whatever geography it is. With its hillside vineyards, the wine-growing villages, industrial districts, and underground ensembles, the cereal property forms a specific agro-industrial system as part of a broader culture. As the legacy of wine growing and winemaking practices developed over the centuries, the property also represents a continuing evolved cultural landscape since its very beginning in early 17th century. When taken as a whole, the property is a unique testimony to the birth, the production, and spread of Champagne and its culture. We believe that the file deserves inscription. Thank you.
Kazakhstan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to express our appreciation to French experts for nominating this beautiful cultural landscape with rich history of winery and famous. So ICOMOS report seems to be very comprehensive, from which we noticed authenticity of the property is well supported, boundary adequate, outstanding university value met all the criteria. With this in mind, we support the inscription of the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Japan and then Germany and Vietnam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We consider this property an extreme example of the cultural landscape from the following points. First, in spite of the fact that Champagne is not fully suitable for wine growing under the geographical circumstances, it has developed the particular method of production of sparkling wines and enhanced this one and only site-based enterprise well known all over the world. Second, Champagne has kept the traditional method of production through the Opération Login Contrôlée system. Third, the infrastructures to grow grapes and product wine have demonstrated the cultural and architectural landscape which characterized Champagne exceptional. Thank you.
Germany, Vietnam, Philippines. Germany.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Champagne hillsides, houses, and cellars are indeed a significant cultural landscape. The wine production shaped the countryside, the villages, and the urban communities. The citizens of the Champagne region perfected the manufacture of Champagne wine over 200 years. And they form a great example of successful interaction between man and nature. Germany supports this site to be inscribed as the second French inscription today. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a very long list of speakers. Maybe you could be a bit briefer. Vietnam.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La délégation du Vietnam donne son soutien entier à l'inscription de ce site en espérant que l'art de Champagne sera classé un jour sur la liste du patrimoine immatériel de l'UNESCO. Et enfin, nous félicitons la France, l'État partie, pour l'initiative extraordinaire de faire une telle proposition et telle nomination. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Now, Philippines and then Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines toasts to this inscription of the Champagne hillsides, houses, and cellars of France. This is an exemplary dossier illustrating comprehensively the narrative of an international product, Champagne, from the geographical, technological, and historical perspectives. In celebration, we always toast with champagne, and now we toast to Champagne. Cheers to France, and congratulations.
Thank you. Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, like the Climat of Burgundy, which we just considered, the Champagne hillsides, houses and cellars is an extraordinary site whose cultural values are felt well beyond the borders of France. The OUV of the property is diverse and far-reaching. We note that Champagne witnesses an exceptional living tradition. I had the privilege of visiting the property and was struck by its unique and prestigious architecture and its underground heritage. Jamaica, therefore, has no hesitation in supporting the inscription of Champagne, hillsides and cellars on the World Heritage List. Congratulations, France.
Thank you. Now, India, then Poland, Korea, and Croatia. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As evidenced by these statements before me, I do not believe that there is anybody in this room who would wish to deny Champagne, which is the birthplace of fizz and symbolic with festivity, celebration, and joy, its rightful place in the sun, and in a contextual sense, its place in the World Heritage List. The nomination dossier speaks for itself, with the ICOMOS report testifying to its outstanding universal value, its authenticity, integrity, and so on. Therefore, and without hesitation, India is greatly pleased, indeed rejoices, in the inscription of this excellent and outstanding nomination, as indeed its excellent and outstanding byproducts to the World Heritage List. India's double congratulations to France. Thank you.
Thank you. Poland?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We commend the State Party for the excellent prepared dossier for this cultural landscape nomination. Champagne represents an exceptional and sophisticated example of winemaking, starting from growing grapes through the production process conducted in the underground cellars to the champagne houses that distributed the final product. We are aware of the fact that this nomination has been prepared for years by a team of devoted persons supported by resident population and local authorities. It is my pleasure to announce that Poland strongly supports the inscription of the Champagne hillsides, houses and cellars nomination presented by France. Congratulations, France, and I think that you may start for the celebration.
Thank you. Korea, then Croatia, Portugal, Qatar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can but echo all the voices of the distinguished delegates before me. Briefly, but very firmly, the Republic of Korea would like to fully support the inscription of the Champagne hillsides, houses and cellars on the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you. Croatia.
Merci, Madame Chair. Alors, je suis obligé de dire quelque chose, pas seulement comme délégué permanent auprès de l'UNESCO, mais aussi en tant que l'ambassadeur bilatéral en France. Alors, la Champagne est une région iconique où le système agro-industriel, qui consiste pas seulement du paysage, mais aussi de l'économie locale et de la vie quotidienne, montre les résultats dans un long processus de développement. Avec son produit renommé, le champagne, alors les coteaux, les maisons et les caves de champagne ont créé le paradigme de la joie de vivre à la française, reconnue et célébrée partout dans le monde. Nous félicitons la République française et la région de Champagne pour la nomination et l'inscription sur la liste du patrimoine de l'UNESCO. Merci.
Thank you. Portugal.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. J'avais déjà mentionné les coteaux, maisons et caves champagne lors de mon intervention précédente. Il me reste donc féliciter la France pour cette récolte 2015 particulièrement réussie et pour les 2 magnifiques grands crus que nous avons mis en bouteille aujourd'hui à Bonn. Merci.
Thank you. Grand Cru. Qatar, you have the floor, and then Algeria, Malaysia, Senegal, and Peru. Qatar.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Bien que je ne sois pas un consommateur d'alcool, néanmoins, je ne peux pas m'empêcher de féliciter la France pour ce dossier très bien travaillé. Et comme cela avait déjà été dit, il n'y a aucun doute quant à la valeur exceptionnelle de ce site, comme le souligne d'ailleurs le rapport de l'ECOMOS. Ce site est non seulement un lieu de culture de la terre, mais aussi un lieu de culture au pluriel, de culture d'échange entre les communautés locales et aussi entre les communautés des travailleurs qui viennent d'ailleurs, d'Europe et d'ailleurs pour donner un coup de main pendant la période de récolte. Nous soutenons donc l'inscription de ce site sur la liste du patrimoine mondial.
Thank you. Algeria, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La délégation algérienne félicite l'État partie la France pour l'inscription de ce site. La délégation française nous a servi aujourd'hui de site que nous lui offrons à sa santé. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. And now Malaysia.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I also have the liberty to visit Champagne Hillside and witness myself the great, unique and significance of this site and its outstanding UNESCO value. Therefore, Malaysia fully subscribed various statements said before in supporting for inscription of this site under the World Heritage list. Thank you very much.
Senegal has the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal félicite la France pour la qualité du dossier et soutient l'inscription du bien sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Et j'espère que le champagne va couler à flot pour les consommateurs. Merci.
Right. Peru.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta. La delegación del Perú también quiere felicitar al gobierno de Francia, a la comuna de Champagne, al pueblo de Champagne por esta nominación. Encontramos que el expediente ha sido elaborado con una gran seriedad, una aproximación científica a una serie de temas complejos que presenta la nominación seriada. Apreciamos también la calidad de la evaluación y de las investigaciones realizadas por ICOMOS. Celebramos que los 3 grupos del sitio, que abarcan 14 componentes, todos hayan merecido en el análisis de ICOMOS la identificación de un valor universal excepcional, que en cada uno de ellos también se haya corroborado la integridad seriada y que ésta esté justificada. Lo mismo que la autenticidad para toda la serie. El Perú obviamente se regocija de esta nominación. Pienso que si tuviésemos una clasificación de las nominaciones, esta de Champagne y la de Borgoña sería una clasificación Grand Cru. Gracias, señora Presidenta.
I missed Colombia, but now Colombia has the floor.
Gracias, señora Presidente. Claro, no podíamos nosotros tampoco quedarnos por fuera de esta celebración. Podrían castigarnos con no tomar una copa de champaña. Celebramos y apoyamos la inscripción de champaña en el Patrimonio Mundial y nos hacemos a las palabras del Líbano. Era tarde, había pasado mucho tiempo sin que estuviera este sitio aquí. Gracias.
Thank you so much. I think we have no amendments, Mr. Rapporteur. No, that's fine.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We haven't received any amendment concerning this item. Thank you.
That's clear. Fine. So, I now declare decision 39,8... Lebanon! What's the matter?
Je regrette. Le Liban regrette, Madame la Présidente, de prendre très rapidement la parole pour une deuxième fois. Juste pour dire que le Liban est cette fois d'accord pour que le site soit classé comme paysage culturel, qui représente un exemple cohérent d'un système agro-industriel basé sur un même terroir du point de vue historique, géographique, technologique, mais également ludique. Merci.
Yeah, and now? It's all...
Yes, he agrees.
Yeah, wonderful. I now declare decision 39,8b, point 24, adopted. We should have used, instead of using the gavel, we should have opened a bottle of champagne. Well, a double congratulations to the two Grand Crus and this excellent nomination. And I would like to give the floor to France again. That's possible?
I think you have to hand up.
It's okay. France, please, you have the floor. I don't know. May I ask Franz again, would you like to have the floor?
Maybe not. Ambassador. Ambassador of Lyon.
He's now sitting down.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador? Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, je trouve assez rafraîchissant de parler devant deux écrans avec des images sous la neige alors qu'il fait 40 degrés dehors. Mais c'est normal, le champagne, ça se boit frais. C'est décidément un grand jour pour la France ce soir, puisque nous voyons consacrer par le comité deux de ses plus belles régions. Je voudrais à nouveau remercier les experts d'ICOMOS, le Centre du patrimoine mondial, tous les États membres du comité qui ont soutenu cette belle candidature de Champagne, ainsi que, et vous l'aurez remarqué, toute l'équipe qui est derrière moi, qui a travaillé depuis 10 ans pour porter ce dossier et cette candidature jusqu'ici à Bonn devant vous. Jusqu'à présent, le monde entier, je crois, connaissait le champagne. Et je crois qu'à partir d'aujourd'hui, grâce à vous, le monde entier connaîtra la Champagne. Comme pour les Bourguignons, je sais que les Champenois, avec l'enthousiasme qui les caractérise, vous pouvez le constater, que les Champenois auront à cœur de préserver ce patrimoine qui est le leur, bien sûr, mais qui est maintenant aussi celui de l'humanité tout entière. Je cède sans plus tarder la parole à Pierre Cheval, lui aussi un viticulteur, et quel viticulteur, et surtout la pierre angulaire de cette candidature depuis plus de 10 ans également. Pierre, à vous.
Thank you. And you have the floor now.
Madame la Présidente, la décision d'inscrire sur la liste du patrimoine mondial les coteaux, maisons et caves de Champagne va droit au cœur des femmes et des hommes de Champagne qui sont fiers, en ce moment, après tant d'années de travail et d'espérance partagées par tous les acteurs du territoire, de voir la valeur universelle exceptionnelle de leur patrimoine commun reconnue au même titre que les sites les plus prestigieux de la planète. Ils vous en expriment leur gratitude et vous apportent leur engagement total à contribuer en retour au succès de l'UNESCO pour faire grandir l'humanité. Il remercie très sincèrement tous ceux qui ont accompagné cette candidature jusqu'au succès d'aujourd'hui. Les représentants des États, le Centre du patrimoine mondial, ICOMOS et UICN, les ministères français de la culture, celui de l'écologie, le comité des biens français et son rapporteur, les contributeurs scientifiques, les élus, les professionnels de la vigne et du vin qui sont ici avec moi aujourd'hui, les entreprises et les milliers de bénévoles qui ont soutenu la candidature. Sans oublier, Madame la Présidente, les jeunes étudiants du lycée viticole d'Avis, Viticampus, qui ont fait un peu de bruit dans cet hémicycle si sérieux. C'est un moment historique pour la Champagne, qui s'inscrit dans la longue histoire des Champenois, soucieux de préserver et de poursuivre leur marche collective, notamment par leur obstination à surmonter les obstacles nés des éléments naturels hostiles ou de la folie destructrice des hommes. L'image symbolique du champagne vint de la célébration, de la réconciliation, du bonheur et de la paix, confère à cette décision d'inscription une dimension toute particulière qui dépasse la simple ambition de préservation d'un bien, fût-il exceptionnel. L'actualité, nous l'avons vu, nous confirme malheureusement que même notre patrimoine le plus emblématique n'est pas à l'abri des pires destructions. Tel a été, jusqu'à un passé récent, le destin de la Champagne, où périodiquement toutes les armées du monde sont venues régler leurs comptes. Elle s'en est toujours relevée. C'est aussi cette dimension de la renaissance et de la fraternité entre les peuples que l'UNESCO a voulu distinguer dans un formidable message d'espoir. Oui, à l'image du champagne qui célèbre la fraternité, l'harmonie des peuples est pour l'humanité une valeur universelle fondamentale. Oui, être inscrit au patrimoine mondial est une grande chance pour la Champagne de participer au rapprochement des peuples par la culture. Oui, tout simplement, être heureux et le célébrer est légitime dans notre monde d'aujourd'hui. Voilà, Madame la Présidente, le message précieux pour les hommes de ce siècle que délivre l'inscription aujourd'hui des coteaux, maisons et caves de Champagne au patrimoine mondial. Alors oui, j'ose le dire, osons le dire tous ensemble, bonheur et champagne pour tout le monde.
We share your happiness, and I'm quite sure that nearly everybody will travel to Champagne now, and maybe tomorrow evening to the hotel Petersburg. Yeah, fine. Now I would like to ask a question to Norway. I was told that the Lord Mayor of Diyarbakir. Oh, Norway and Spain. I was told that the Lord Mayor of Diyarbakir has just arrived, and therefore it's a question to Norway and Spain. Would you agree that we now treat the nomination of Turkey? That would be very helpful for them.
No objection.
No objection? Fine, thank you for this understanding.
Spain is not
yeah. And I would like to ask the Vice President to chair now. Thank you so much.
Colleagues, we now turn to the nomination from Turkey, Diyarbakir Fortress and Hefsel Gardens Cultural Landscape, Draft Decision 39-COM 8B32. I turn to ICOMOS now to present this nomination, but a word from Mr. Balsamo before that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to remind the committee, we received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of this nomination, which is to be found on page 81 of the English version of INF 8B4 and page 86 of the French version. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Balsamo. ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The ICOMOS evaluation can be found on page 273 of document INF 8B1 English version, and in the French version is page 337. The fortified city and its associated landscape were an important center and regional capital during the Hellenistic, Roman, Sassanid, and Byzantine period, through the Islamic and Ottoman periods to the present. The nominated property include the impressive Diyarbakir city walls of 5,800 meters, with its many towers, gates, buttresses, and 63 inscriptions from different historical periods, and the Hefsel Gardens that link the city with the Tigris River and supplied the city with food and water. The city walls and the evidence of their damage, repair and reinforcement since the Roman period present a powerful physical and visual testimony of the many periods of the region's history. In terms of category of cultural property set out in Article 1 of the 1972 World Heritage Convention, this is a site, and is in terms of paragraph 47 of the operational guidelines, it is also a cultural landscape. The nominated property is located in the Diyarbakir province. On an escarpment in the upper Tigris River basin lies the nominated property of 520.76 hectares within the protection of a buffer zone of 1,421.90 hectares. The Diyarbakir Fortress and the Hefsel Gardens landscape is located in part of the region known as the Fertile Crescent, an area of many cultures and civilizations over time. Structures related to this long history and the different religions, societies, states, and governments still stand in the nominated property and its buffer zone. The city was laid out to satisfy the need of the local population in case of any attacks. The fortress assumed its current shape in the Roman period in the middle of the 14th century, and its location and 7,000 years of history have been closely related to its proximity to the Tigris River. There are 4 gates on 4 directions, lying on the ends of the 2 main arteries on the north, south, and east-west direction that intersect each other. The gates are Deg Gate on the north, Urfa Gate on the west, Mardin Gate on the south, and Yeni Gate on the east. Very special decorations and inscriptions on the fortress's gates and towers that are written in stone are among the best surviving examples of the Roman, Byzantine, Abbasid, and Marwanid eras. Due to the topography of the location, some sections of the city walls, such as the Yeni Gate, were not thick enough, and with time they became weak and suffered damages. Some of these damages were undoubtedly caused by neglect and removal of stones. The city walls, also known as the Outer Castle, have about 82 towers and buttresses in different sizes that support it. They have square, circular, and polygonal shapes. The Findik Tower, known as Tower 63, which was constructed during the reign of Seljuk, have an inscription on it to confirm this information. In addition to the city walls, there is an inner castle that also has 4 gates: Saray Gate, the Kupeli Gate, the Feti Gate, and Ogrun Gate leading into the castle. The survival of the original iron door on Surrey Gate until today is an important achievement. While a substantial amount of the original elements of the inner castle and city walls remain, recent restoration work were not adequately documented. Foreign materials was introduced through restoration work on some parts of the fortification. However, there are instances where the restoration reused old material from the collapsed walls. In order to minimize further damages, there are controls put in place within and around the nominated property for the sustainability of the property. Recent work, which has been a source of debate, had been halted in order to reconsider the conservation planning and methods. ICOMOS considers that exceptional care and attention to detail is required, as the stones are an extraordinary witness to the history of this region. Though there is management of the property, it is not well coordinated with management of the buffer zone property. The Hefsel Gardens is made vulnerable by settlements and business establishments that divert water upstream. The bed of the Tigris River is today reduced because of the dams that divert water. Addressing this matter is important, especially taking into account the contribution of the hydraulic and agricultural systems to the history of the site. ICOMOS considers the conditions of integrity and authenticity to be adequate but could be improved, the comparative analysis to be good and criterion 4 to be met, while criterion 2 and 5 not met. ICOMOS also considers that boundaries are revised during evaluation to be appropriate. The protection is not adequate and the conservation and management systems to be adequate, but could be improved. ICOMOS recommends that the nomination of Diyarbakir Fortress and Hefsel Gardens Cultural Landscape Turkey be referred back to the state party. And the rest of the decision is on the screen and is on page 281 in the English document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS. The floor is now open for comments. Japan, you have the floor. India, thereafter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the ICOMOS evaluation, basically OUV of the site is acknowledged and only remain an issue as a protection scheme, including control of the urban development, needs to strengthen protection of the property and implementation of the comprehensive management scheme. While we do understand that these points are essential for long-term conservation and sustainable development, these implementation issues can be treated as additional recommendation. In other words, maybe the committee can ask the state party to report back the progress after inscription. Therefore, we support inscription rather than referral. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japan. India, followed by Serbia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are in agreement with Japan, and we feel that it is a very outstanding site reflective of several layers of history and civilizations. It has been mentioned that the protection for key attributes of the property are available, though there is a need to interlink them. And what ICOMOS has mentioned is that controls are in place, but management of property and buffer zone needs to be integrated, which is a minor issue. So we also propose that the site should be inscribed under criteria 4 as recognized by ICOMOS. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Serbia, followed by Portugal.
Madam the Chair, Serbia supports and endorses what has been said about the inscription, and we are for the imminent inscription of this site to the World Heritage List. I would like to underline 2 points which to our mind are very important. In the material that we have received has been said that the buffer zones and through continued efforts to engage with local communities to support the conservation, appropriate development of the nominated property. And then, it has been said also, main threats to the property are various issues arising from the current population pressures, such as unregulated occupation and so on. Having, fortunately, the first-hand knowledge of the region of Diyarbakir, I think then one of the very important, lasting, far-reaching and beneficial effect of this inscription will be properly the improvement of the living conditions of the population, and that means on all the local community, to their structural involvement and active integration in this complex civilizational project, cultural, social, and we can even say in the noble sense, political. And Yaşasın Diyarbakır.
Thank you very much, Serbia. Portugal, you have the floor, followed by Lebanon.
Thank you, Madam President. We have no doubts about the outstanding value of this nomination, which is clearly demonstrated both in the nomination dossier and in the very accurate ICOMOS evaluation. Having carefully read all documents, it is obvious that the nominated property of the Diyarbakir Fortress and Hefsel Gardens cultural landscape has outstanding universal value. The Diyarbakir Fortress is an astonishing example of multicultural and multi-layered structure which bears witness to impressive architecture and construction techniques that span over millennia and embrace different civilizations, cultures, and religions. Also, the intertwined relationship between the cultural landscape and extensive city walls and their continuing relationship with the Hefsel Gardens and the Tigris River is impressive. Concerning the reasons put forth by ICOMOS against the immediate inscription of this property on the World Heritage List here in Bonn, we have received strong assurances from the State Party that it will further improve the legal protection of the site, which is already deemed as adequate, especially of its buffer zones as well as the overall management system. We also note with satisfaction the inclusiveness approach that was followed in the preparation of this nomination. The importance that all stakeholders, including local communities attached to the property, is undeniable. It is valued as a testimony of a living city that still evokes today thousands of years of history and the close relationship that different cultures, peoples, and religions have cherished through the centuries with the fortress and its surrounding environment, as underlined by our Serbian colleague. For all these reasons, Madam President, we strongly support the inscription of the Diyarbakir Fortress and Hefsel Gardens cultural landscape on the World Heritage List today. I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Over to Lebanon now, followed by Senegal.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La forteresse de Diyarbakir et les jardins de l'Efsel sont un exemple d'une ville frontière qui a joué un rôle principal pendant plusieurs millénaires, à la frontière entre l'Occident et l'Orient, grâce à la proximité de son fleuve, de la fertilité de la vallée, de l'abondance de l'eau et des cultures maraîchères. Il s'agit donc bien d'un paysage culturel, nous insistons de nouveau, qui justifie du critère 4. En cohérence avec nos autres décisions, en particulier la décision qu'on a prise sur le site de Christiansfeld, et en cohérence avec les candidatures que nous allons examiner demain, en particulier la candidature de la Speicherstadt et du quartier de Konterhaus, que l'ICOMOS propose d'inscrire malgré les réserves qu'il exprime sur la zone tampon et sur les dispositifs de gestion. Nous proposons, pour garder l'équité et la cohérence de nos décisions, nous proposons d'inscrire directement le site de Diyarbakir et des jardins de l'Efsel sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, en demandant à l'État partie de prendre en compte les recommandations visant à renforcer les dispositifs de protection et de gestion du bien. Merci. Le Liban a présenté une décision révisée. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Lebanon. Senegal, you have the floor, followed by the Philippines.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, la lecture du rapport introduit par l'ICOMOS montre que la VIE de ce bien n'est plus à discuter. Beaucoup d'orateurs l'ont déjà dit, ce site exceptionnel qui a vu succéder des civilisations particulières a déjà fait sa preuve que ce site que nous venons d'étudier est le dossier extrêmement important et bien fait de l'État partie milite en faveur de son inscription immédiate. Nous demandons néanmoins à l'État partie de suivre les recommandations pour une meilleure application et un meilleur fonctionnement de ce site. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Senegal. Philippines, followed by Malaysia.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Philippines acknowledges the merits of the Diyarbakir Fortress at Hevsel Gardens of Turkey. This cultural landscape, a frontier border city between the East and the West for a millennia, is a testimony to significant stages in world history. The Fertile Crescent's crossroad feature has likewise made the site a fertile confluence of present human and urban development. Thus, the layers of legal protection and coordination of management, at the same time with community stewardship for the core and buffer zones, were established and are conscientiously strengthened. We are confident, therefore, that the management mechanisms of Turkey to its historic archaeological fortified sites could assuage the community for an inscription of this significant evolving cultural landscape. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Malaysia. Vietnam, followed by Qatar. Oh, my mistake. Malaysia, followed by
Thank you, Madam
Vietnam.
Chairperson. Malaysia has examined carefully the nomination file, which features a significant universal value of its kind. The Diyarbakir Fortress, which has been in existence since the 4th century in the Roman Emperor, represents a unique masterpiece of cultural heritage, expanded by many great eras of civilization such as Byzantine, Umayyad, Abbasid, and Ottoman era. Not to mention the Hevsel Garden, which are first mentioned in Assyrian written source from the 9th century before Christ. Undoubtedly, and as recognized by ICOMOS, this site satisfies the requirement of OUB for criteria 4. Malaysia understands that the state party Turkey has begun work closely with the advisory body ICOMOS in strengthening and to well place the legal instrument to protect this property and its buffers, as well as to fully implement the management system of the property. Having satisfied this requirement, Malaysia sees merits for the property to be inscribed in the World Heritage List. Nonetheless, with your indulgence, Madam Chair, Malaysia also would like to request the state party Turkey to be given the floor with a view to allow state party to explain to us its effort on improving the presentation of the property, in particular the legal protection and management of property, as well as a specific concern highlighted in the ICOMOS evaluation on the possible negative impact of the diversion dams on the Tigris River. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Ambassador of Malaysia. Vietnam, you have the floor, followed by Qatar.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Vietnam est heureux de soutenir l'inscription immédiate de ce site extraordinaire sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en demandant, sur la base du critère 4, en demandant l'État partie de poursuivre les recommandations proposées par l'ICOMOS. Je vous remercie Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Vietnam. Qatar, followed by Kazakhstan.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, il n'y a aucun doute sur la valeur exceptionnelle de ce site en tant que paysage culturel. En présentant ce dossier, la Turquie montre une fois de plus le professionnalisme de ses experts en présentant ce site d'une grande valeur universelle exceptionnelle. Le Qatar soutient donc l'inscription immédiate de ce site. Merci.
Thank you, Qatar. Kazakhstan, followed by the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to congratulate Turkey and its professional experts for nominating this outstanding site, Diyarbakir, which housed many civilizations for millennia and has deep-rooted history and rich culture. Therefore, we support proposals for qualification of the nomination for inscription. Thank you.
Thank you, Kazakhstan. Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to congratulate Turkey and ICOMOS for their hard work in preparing and evaluating this unique site. The city walls, with its many towers in great volume, and the inner castle settled within the landscape of the Tigris River, still preserving several layers of history, are indeed remarkable. It is also commendable that we notice that the State Party has established a management system which includes provisions for community involvement, as this will greatly help with the future potential development projects. We would like to give a chance for the State Party to speak on the status of pursuing the legal protection of the buffer zone, as recommended by ICOMOS, and the assurances of the State Party would help us in going forward with the inscription of the site at this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Republic of Korea. Germany and Croatia in that order.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We are pleased to see that ICOMOS confirmed the criterion for and as well as authenticity and integrity. We do believe that the State Party is in the position to address the concerns of ICOMOS, and we would like to invite the State Party to give us an updated information in regard to the fulfillment of the management requirements.
Thank you. Croatia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We think that the Diyarbakir Fortress and Hafsal Gardens are remarkable sites that demonstrate the OUV. Criteria for and the authenticity and integrity have also been met. We would go for the inscription and join the previous colleagues, but we would also like to hear the State Party to inform us on the management issues that have been the main concern of the advisory body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jamaica and Colombia in that order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Turkey is renowned for its outstanding cultural heritage, reflected in its many heritage sites and cultural landscapes. The Diyarbakir Fortress and Hersel Gardens cultural landscape is no exception. The site sits on the strengths of a 7,000-year-old history that is unquestionably of great significance to global heritage. The OUV, integrity and authenticity of the landscape are more than adequately presented. We note from the advisory body that elements of the nomination can be improved. We believe that the reservations by ICOMOS are primarily related to management of the property, and perhaps Turkey should be given the opportunity to address the concerns raised by ICOMOS. We are nevertheless confident that Turkey, with its vast experience, will be able to fill the outstanding gaps and address the concerns raised. It is on this basis that Jamaica has no hesitation in supporting the inscription of this site, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you to the Ambassador. Colombia, followed by Algeria.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Colombia apoya la inscripción de este sitio y celebra esta iniciativa por parte de Turquía. Sin embargo, y como ya lo han expresado varios países y lo solicita el informe de ICOMOS, quisiéramos preguntarle al Estado parte qué acciones se han realizado para fortalecer la protección de la zona buffer y para la implementación del plan de manejo. Gracias.
Thank you. Algeria, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le bien paysage culturel de la forteresse de Diyarbakir et des jardins de l'Essel, un carrefour de culture et de civilisation, mérite certainement son inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial dans la catégorie des paysages culturels. Et nous soutenons cette inscription. Le rapport ICOMOS fait état de certaines anomalies et des lacunes dans la gestion du bien. Cependant, nous remarquons que les expressions utilisées sont le renforcement de certaines actions déjà prises, les améliorations de certaines activités également et de certaines actions de gestion. Cela suppose tout simplement que l'État partie a déjà mis en place des normes de gestion et qu'il est en train de les prendre en charge sur le terrain. Cependant, nous croyons savoir, nous avons discuté avec l'État partie, et nous croyons savoir que des mesures ont été prises, des mesures colossales, tels que l'annulation de projets de centrales hydroélectriques sur le fleuve du Tigre, l'annulation de la décision concernant la zone de construction de la réserve, la suspension de travaux de restauration inappropriés et d'autres actions et d'autres mesures que l'État partie a prises certainement et que nous allons entendre. Cela rend compte de la détermination de l'État partie et des communautés et des populations à prendre en charge leurs biens et à leur détermination aussi à le voir inscrit sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Algeria. And the last two committee members on this list are Poland and Peru. Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I don't want to prolong the discussion at the very late hour. We support the nomination of Diyarbakir Fortress to the World Heritage List, and I would like to congratulate Turkey for this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Peru, followed by Finland.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta. El Perú también coincide con la gran mayoría de delegaciones que me han antecedido en el uso de la palabra, en el sentido que el bien debe ser inscrito en la lista del patrimonio mundial, especialmente en función de que el propio órgano consultivo ICOMOS, ¿no?, coincide y fundamenta, demuestra la existencia del valor universal excepcional aplicando el criterio cuarto. Quisiera aprovechar, señora Presidenta, para hacer una reflexión general. Este no es el primer caso, ni será el último, en el que la recomendación del órgano consultivo tiene dos elementos que pueden ser excluyentes. Por un lado, el reconocimiento del valor universal excepcional del bien propuesto, la justificación de los criterios de autenticidad e integridad y, por otro lado, la recomendación de no inscribir en la lista por cuestiones que tienen que ver con la protección y la gestión. Conforme a la Convención, especialmente el artículo 2, el requisito para que un bien sea inscrito en la lista del patrimonio mundial es la demostración de la existencia de un valor universal excepcional, que evidentemente se complementa con los criterios de protección y de autenticidad que de esta forma pasan a ser componentes del BUE. Pero evidentemente la Convención no podía establecer como requisito para inscribir un bien en la lista un estándar de protección determinado. Y esto por una razón muy sencilla, porque la propia institución de la lista del patrimonio mundial, a partir de la inscripción del bien, determina que el sitio está sujeto a unos estándares altos de protección a nivel nacional y que adicionalmente se le aplican estándares de protección y de gestión de nivel internacional. Exactamente, las directrices operativas hacen referencia a la protección y a la gestión. Las directrices operativas no son vinculantes, no pueden modificar la Convención y aún en su redacción creo que no establecen tampoco que un estándar determinado de gestión sea un requisito para inscribir un bien en la lista del patrimonio mundial. Dejo esta reflexión, señora Presidenta, a consideración de la sala, porque es un asunto transversal que en algún momento lo vamos a tener que discutir. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Peru. Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finland supports the nomination of Turkey, Diyarbakir Fortress and Harvest Gardens cultural landscape to inscribe on the World Heritage List and congratulate the Turkish delegation of fine nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Finland. There appears to be total consensus in this room, and now I will give the floor to Turkey, which will be the 21st committee member to speak on this nomination. Turkey, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. On behalf of the government of Turkey and the provincial municipality of Diyarbakir, governorate of Diyarbakir, and people of Turkey and Diyarbakir, I greet this committee and in response to the questions asked, I have the honor to inform you and report to you to this August forum, Madam Chair, that the Diyarbakir nomination is becoming Turkey's model nomination, because in the earlier years of the 2000s, we had legislative shortcomings and as well as lack of experience and technical professional performance. Whereas in the case of Diyarbakir, throughout the upstream process, we have recorded an exemplary level of performance by all interagency work, as well as local bodies, the site managers, scientific boards. I'm also happy to report that through the new principles of ICOMOS and the World Heritage Center, we were able to actually test certain principles which are hopefully going to be endorsed and decided by this very committee on improving the upstream process. Through face-to-face meetings and repeated consultations and correspondence, it was possible that the Turkish side and the Diyarbakir site managers and Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism have been able to respond and actually effectively put into force the overwhelming majority of actionable issues which were required or recommended by the advisory bodies. Namely, the management plan is fully completed and put in force. The Regional Council for Diyarbakir of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism has included the entire site, including the advised chapters, into full protection under Turkish Public Law 2863. Diyarbakir municipality in the month of June, just before coming here, endorsed and adopted the decrees implementing fully the recommended protection and conservation principles and criteria required by the advisory bodies. I would also be proud to inform you, Madam Chair, that the government of Turkey and Turkish Electricity Administration Authority suspended all 3 hydropower plants and abolished these projects, and these projects will be relocated. The government also stopped all reconstruction and new construction and development projects, including the residential compounds, in order to protect and conserve this study. Ministry of Agriculture and other bodies are developing and implementing new projects to reorganize the Hefsel gardens and protect them from defective impacts of the new projects. So we believe this commitment of Turkey and the local site managers and the local administration is exemplary, and it is going to set a model of effective implementation of our convention. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much to the Ambassador of Turkey for responding to all those points raised from the floor. I trust that this settles all points raised by committee members. And if so, I will now turn to our rapporteur to present draft decision 39-8B32. Oh, sorry. Prior to that, I can see ICOMOS has raised its flag. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. With regard to the comment by the distinguished delegate of Peru, ICOMOS would like to recall that on the basis of paragraph 78 of the operational guidelines, to be deemed of outstanding universal value, a property must also meet the conditions of integrity and/or authenticity and must have an adequate protection and management system to ensure its safeguarding. It doesn't mean that ICOMOS wouldn't welcome the inscription of this outstanding property, but ICOMOS wanted to let clear that protection and management are among the conditions for outstanding universal value. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much to you, ICOMOS. I can see that there's complete unanimity. The Turkish... Peru, have you desired to...
Sí, muchas gracias, Presidenta. Muy breve, solo para decir 2 palabras respecto a lo señalado por ICOMOS. Las directrices operativas, en todo caso, no son vinculantes jurídicamente y no pueden modificar la convención. Lo que yo considero es que si se demuestra el valor universal de un bien, se tiene que inscribir en la lista y esa decisión debe contener todas las recomendaciones que puedan existir para que se establezca el más alto nivel de estándar de gestión, de preservación y de protección. Pero la Convención no establece como requisito para reconocer e inscribir un bien en la lista la existencia de un estándar determinado de protección. Gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you, Peru. Any other committee members? No, I don't see any other committee members. And so I will turn to our rapporteur.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In fact, Lebanon presented an amendment, and as we saw, there's unanimity for inscription, the inscription of Diyarbakir Fortress and Hefsel Gardens cultural landscape in Turkey on the World Heritage List on the basis of criterion number 4. So, according to Lebanon, the World Heritage Committee takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value, and which text will be inserted afterwards. Hence, the World Heritage Committee, according to Lebanon, recommends that the state party give consideration to the following many recommendations according to the SOUV, and at the end, Lebanon suggests it adds a new paragraph 5, according to which the World Heritage Committee requests the state party to submit to the World Heritage Center by December 1st, 2017, a final report on the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 42nd session in 2018. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. If there are no further... ICOMOS has indicated that it wishes to take the floor. You have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Si on revient au chapeau qui concerne la recommandation pour inscription, peut-être en accord avec ce qu'avait dit l'honorable délégué du Liban, il faudrait rajouter l'inscription en tant que paysage culturel. As a cultural landscape.
Thank you, ICOMOS. That is being done, and it's coming up on your screens. And I can see that Lebanon wants to speak. You have the floor.
Oui, très rapidement, Madame la Présidente. Nous sommes d'accord pour la proposition d'ICOMOS d'ajouter en tant que paysage culturel. Simplement, sans vouloir rentrer dans des polémiques concernant protection, gestion, etc., je dois rappeler aux distingués délégués du Pérou qu'il y a quand même quelque chose qui s'appelle des Operational Guidelines, et que dans les Operational Guidelines, il est demandé pour inscrire un site qu'il y ait un niveau de protection et qu'il y ait un système de gestion. C'est écrit noir sur blanc dans les Operational Guidelines. Merci.
Merci. Thank you, Lebanon. And with that, I can see Mr. Balsamo wants to take the floor now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you can scroll down to the last paragraph where it's asked a report. Normally we ask for a report, not a final report that will prevent the submission of other reports in the future. So maybe the word final, we can take it out.
Thank you, Mr. Balsamo. So the word final is also in the decision, and that, I think, should be that. So with that, I will move now towards adoption of draft decision 39-8B32 as amended. Adopted. On behalf of the World Heritage Committee, let me congratulate the delegation of Turkey on this inscription and grant them the floor for a brief 2-minute statement. The Ambassador of Turkey has the floor.
Madam Chair, Madam President, dear colleagues, thank you, UNESCO. Thank you, World Heritage Committee. Greetings and thanks from the Open Air Museum and of Civilizations of Anatolia, the land of civilizations. Dear colleagues, Diyarbakir is a fortress of humanity, a fortress of moderation, the fortress of cultural diversity, the fortress of integration, a fortress of mutual recognition, a fortress of the rebirth of human civilization and democracy and cultural diversity and gender diversity and gender equality. Diyarbakir is going to return this great favor and crowning of its cultural heritage by responding with all its force and commitment to safeguard the supreme values of United Nations and UNESCO. Ladies and gentlemen, with its strong structure, inscriptions, and gates, it is indeed an outstanding example in regard to architecture, construction, technique, masonry, decoration, and not just its antiquity, but throughout the Middle Age civilizations. Diyarbakir has survived many centuries and still clearly encircles the innermost core of the historic city and the continuous habitation of human civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, this nomination in UNESCO under the roof of beautiful former capital of Germany is going to bring a new spirit of unity and harmony in our region at a time when East and West relations and relations between cultures and religions are going through a major test of human civilization. We promise you that this cultural recognition will not only serve to humanity and regional and international peace and stability, but it is also going to serve and help UNESCO to raise its voice once again in line with its mandate after the Great War, the Second World War, as has been prescribed and collectively decided by all states which make the family of the United Nations, that UNESCO will deliver. UNESCO will deliver peace, and it will plant and cultivate the seeds of humanity and peace under this August forum and under this roof. I would now like to also highlight that behind my back and on my right and left, as an example of gender equality, the Diyarbakir municipality, represented by two co-mayors, one male and one female, Madam Gülten Kısanak and Fırat Anlı, accompanied by their sub-mayors and all sub-municipalities of Diyarbakir, that's Sur Fatma Sık Barut and Seyit Narin and Ülkü Baytaş and Nevin Soyukaya, together with Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs delegation and Ministry of Culture and Turkish National Commission for UNESCO. We are proud of you. We are grateful to you. I would briefly give the floor to the two co-mayors to greet you and to thank you on their own behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Also, the governor of Izmir is here.
You have the floor. Turkey, you have the floor.
Dünya Kültür Mirası Komitesi'nin çok saygıdeğer üyeleri, Türkiye ve Diyarbakır adına, halkımız adına hepinize sonsuz teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. İnsanlık tarihinin ilklerinin yaşandığı Yukarı Mezopotamya'nın incisi, Diyarbakır'ın surları ve Hefsel bahçeleri dünya mirası olarak tescillendi. Büyük bir mutluluk duyduk. Bize bu mutluluğu yaşattığınız için hepinize ayrı ayrı sonsuz teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Büyük sular, büyük kültürler doğurur. Bu söz tarihte haklılığı kanıtlanmış en güçlü sözdür. Yukarı Mezopotamya kültürünün ev sahibi de Dicle Nehri'dir. Semavi dinlerin kutsal kitaplarında da adı geçen Dicle'nin hayat verdiği Diyarbakır çok kültürlü, çok inançlı, çok dilli, çok katmanlı, binlerce yıldan beri kesintisiz olarak yaşamın devam ettiği bir kenttir. Yaşıtı birçok kent, antik kentler arasına karışırken Diyarbakır günümüzde de hayatın bütün coşkusuyla devam ettiği, yaşayan bir kenttir. Bu kadim kentin sırları surlarında saklıdır. Hevsel bahçeleri de bu sırların anası gibidir. Tarih boyunca kadim kenti ve birçok kültürü, medeniyeti besleyen ana kaynak olmuştur. Mınna ve kola lıbırcen Diyarbakır. Yani ben adımı kazıdım Diyarbakır'ın burçlarına. Dizelerinde de ifade edildiği gibi birçok medeniyet, birçok kültür Diyarbakır surlarına adını yazmıştır. Bugünden itibaren UNESCO'da Diyarbakır surlarına adını kazımış oldu. Bugün alınan bu kararla tüm insanlığın mirası olan Diyarbakır, sizlerin huzurunda, sizlerin şahitliğinde Diyarbakır surları ve Hevsel bahçeleri bizlere emanet edildi. Şunu bilin ki güveninize layık olacağız. Surlara, tarihe, insanlık değerlerine layık olmak için çalışacağız. Diyarbakır Kalesi ve Hevsel bahçeleri dosyamızı hazırlarken de sivil toplum örgütleriyle, bilim insanlarıyla, kent gönüllüleriyle, tüm kurumlarla, bakanlığımızla, valilikle, UKOMOS'la beraber çalışarak mükemmel bir dosya hazırlamaya gayret ettik. Bundan sonra da bu eşsiz mirası gözümüz gibi koruyacağınızdan hiç şüpheniz olmasın. Bu çünkü bütün insanlığın bize emanetidir. Böyle bakacağız ve gereken her türlü koruma tedbirini alacağız. Ve bu karar sadece Diyarbakır surlarını ve Hevsel bahçelerini korumak için değil, yanı başımızda tehdit altındaki bütün kültürleri, bütün tarihi mirasları korumak için bize güç ve cesaret verdi. Biz bilgimizi, tecrübemizi bütün kültürel miras alanlarıyla paylaşacağız. Bugün bulunduğumuz coğrafyada korkunç bir savaş yaşanıyor. Tüm insanlık değerleri tehdit altında. Ama tarih boyunca olduğu gibi Diyarbakır bir barış kenti olmaya devam edecektir. Bu savaşların sona ermesi, bu korkunç insanlık dışı vahşi saldırıların son bulması ve bütün kültürel değerlerin yan yana birlikte barış içerisinde yaşaması için gayret edeceğiz ve çalışacağız. Bize bu konuda güç ve destek verdiğiniz için hepinize sonsuz teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Çok teşekkürler UNESCO. Çok teşekkürler insanlığın bize bıraktığı bu mirası korumak için gayret eden bütün ekibimiz, Kültür Bakanlığı, alan yönetimimiz, teknik ekibimiz ve bizlere UKOMOS'un değerli bilim insanları, hepinize sonsuz teşekkürler. Sağ olun, var olun.
Sayın Başkan, değerli komite üyeleri, öncelikle bütün şehrimiz adına, bütün medeniyetler adına 33 medeniyete ev sahipliği yapmış, binlerce yıldan beridir kültürlerin birbirine devrettiği ve bugün hepimiz adına kültürel miras listesine alınan Diyarbakır halkı adına en içten teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum. Biz nasıl 33 medeniyetin bize devrettiğini bugün koruma bilinciyle yaklaşıyorsak, bugün alınan karar bize en büyük destek ve en büyük moral kaynağı olmuştur. Bizden sonrakilere de çok kimlikli, çok kültürlü, çok inançlı ve herkesin kendi kimliğiyle barış içerisinde yaşadığı bir şehirde Diyarbakır'ın 4 kapısının açık olduğu gibi yüreğimizin kapıları da sizlere açıktır. Bütün herkesi Diyarbakır'da bu kültürel mirasa yerinde görerek nasıl doğru, nasıl güzel bir karar aldığını görmeniz için sizleri davet ediyoruz. Aldığınız bu karar yüz binlerce insanın bu gece büyük bir mutlulukla kendi kentine sahip çıkmasına vesile olacaktır. Ben de emeği geçen herkese teşekkür ediyorum. Thank you, spas.
Congratulations once again to Turkey, and on that very happy note, we bring the proceedings to a close. The Secretariat would like to make some announcements though.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Après la fête, j'aimerais rappeler aux membres du comité que demain matin, il y aura une réunion du groupe de travail sur les directives opérationnelles à 8 heures dans la salle habituelle, c'est-à-dire la salle Bonne. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. We meet tomorrow at 9:30.
All delegations are invited to attend our reception.